Hey there, Mr. Redder here. Welcome back to another episode of r/Entitled People Stories. Today we have a very special episode for you, a compilation of some of the best entitled people stories we've read over the past year. So sit back, relax, and enjoy a few hours of the most entitled people you've ever heard of. And by the way, Karen assured me that for every thumbs up this video gets, she won't try to get anyone fired for an entire week. So please smash that like button and subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. Pregnant sister demands to move in with me. For context, I, 22 female, live in a 2-bedroom apartment. My sister, 26, is 6 months pregnant and lives with her boyfriend. Long story short, her boyfriend is a jerk. My family hates him. He treats my sister like crap, but every time she goes back to him. Every time it's the same story. They fight and break up, he kicks her out, she moves in with me. We talk about her relationship and future. She says she's not getting back with him ever again, etc. And then within a few days, she's speaking to him again, and then within another few days, living with him again. Rinse and repeat. Well, the last time it happened was the last straw. I was going on holiday with friends for 10 days, but 3 days before I was meant to leave, my sister shows up at my home with her bags. They've broken up again, but this time it seemed permanent. I comfort her for the 3 days and even offer not to go on vacation and she and I can spend the week together. She says no and insists I go on and enjoy myself. So I do. When I leave, she's still heartbroken and I still feel pretty guilty, but I've saved up for this holiday for a while and probably won't get the opportunity again for a while because of lockdown. When I arrive home, my apartment is a state. Dishes piled up everywhere, rubbish all over the place, laundry in every room, etc. It was filthy and I was angry. I run up to the spare room and I find my sister and her boyfriend are in bed. The boyfriend that she was never getting back together with. I never gave her permission to let him into my home because I don't like him and I don't want him there. At this point, I'm angry, but I've also been traveling overnight, so I'm pretty exhausted. I calmly tell her to pack her stuff and both of them need to get out. They left with some fuss and didn't offer to clean or anything. The next day she comes around to get some of her stuff and I tell her that she's no longer welcome to stay in my home. She can visit during the day, but she will never be sleeping over here again. She took an attitude and said she didn't care. Fine, whatever. She wants to treat me and my home with that level of disrespect, then I don't have to go out of my way to help her out. So, when she got pregnant, my family basically reiterated to her that her boyfriend is not a good guy and she's leaving herself financially vulnerable by not getting her own place. He's manipulative, etc. Nothing is stopping her from getting her own place. She's just too lazy and wants everything handed to her. Well, I reiterated to her that if she wants to stay with her boyfriend, then she better not come crawling to me when he kicks her out again. She gets mad, says she doesn't need me anyway, etc. But I repeat it, making myself very clear. That brings us to now. She's 6 months pregnant. Boyfriend has kicked her out again and she has nowhere to go. Parents don't have the room for her or a baby, never mind both. I've repeated my stance from before and now she's calling me a jerk. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. You stated your boundaries and the expectations. She disrespected your home when you had been incredibly generous. She makes the same choices time after time. What's the saying? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over while expecting a different outcome, or something like that. She chooses to stay in this unhealthy and unsteady relationship. She chose to keep the pregnancy. She will probably choose to keep the kid and subject it to this toxic environment and hectic back and forth nonsense, especially if she feels like she has somewhere to run away to. Stand your ground, if you so choose. It would even be kind to explain how their current relationship with the regular fighting and separating and making up is highly unhealthy and unstable for them as adults and would be even worse for a kid if she so chooses to keep the kid and stay in the relationship, and that you will not be a part of this any longer. Not the jerk. Your sister sounds rude and delusional. She knows you don't like her boyfriend, but still invited him over while you were on vacation and ignored the mess she made? Can you imagine the mess she will make if you allow her and a baby to stay? She will use the baby as an excuse, and you will become a second parent to the kid. If she's on the verge of being homeless, I'm sure your parents would make room for her, but they and you probably expect her to get back with her boyfriend in a few days, so they don't bother going through the trouble of making room. Hopefully, she will realize you are no longer her safety net and that she needs to get her crap together. Not the jerk. If you were to let her in now, you're not just going to be a roommate. You're going to be a provider for her and her baby. When she's short on cash, she'll come to you. When she needs someone to watch the baby, just for a minute, but she stays gone for hours, you again. When she needs diapers, formula, etc., and doesn't have the money, she's going to be looking at you. The mess she made with her boyfriend is nothing compared to the bottles, diapers, and laundry associated with a baby. And believe it or not, the above is the best case scenario. There's yet another option. She gets back with boyfriend and he moves in. One day you'll leave for work, and when you get home, he's there with all of his stuff, telling you that he has a right to be with the mother of his baby. You're a jerk if you try to keep them apart. She'll cry and tell you how horrible you are that you're keeping them from being a true family. It's your home, and you deserve to be comfortable in it. You deserve quiet, privacy, and peace of mind. Just say no. And anyone who contacts you to tell you you're a jerk for not letting your sister stay, tell them they can let your sister sleep on their couch. Well, what would you do in this situation? Would you let your sister come live with you or not? Please let us know. Sometimes we just need to go no contact with people. She made her bed, now she gets to lie in it. Crazy Karen attacks me over a toy. Sweet karma shows up. I never thought I would run across an actual Karen like those that I read about here. But yesterday, I was proved wrong. So wrong. A bit of backstory. I have a 5-year-old daughter that is the best of friends with my neighbor's daughter who has special needs. The two are inseparable. My wife had bought our daughter a toy a few weeks ago as a reward for doing all of her chores and being awarded as Student of the Week in her kindergarten class. She immediately took it over to the neighbor's house and the two girls love to play with it. It's one of those toys that comes with accessories, slime, stickers, etc. Well, since then, this particular toy has been featured on a very popular morning talk show and is now pretty hard to find. My daughter's friend's birthday is the day after Thanksgiving and asked me if we could buy her best friend the same toy as her gift. We couldn't say no to her request for her best friend, so we started looking online to see if we could find one. After a few days of no luck, one of the very popular, more bougie of the big box stores had some in stock at a store about 30 minutes away. I hit the road to try and get my hands on one before they were all gone. This is what happened when I got there, and I still can't believe it happened. I got to the store, grabbed a shopping cart because I was going to grab a couple of other things while I was there, and walked straight to the toy department. I looked around for a few minutes before I finally saw the toy I was after. There was only one left, and I grabbed it and put it in my cart. I was so glad I finally found one. I started to walk away to continue shopping when I heard a voice behind me say, excuse me, but that toy was mine. I put it down and was coming right back for it. Do you mind? I replied, oh, I'm sorry. I've been looking for this toy as a gift for a very special girl, and it was on the shelf, so I'm sorry, but no, I'm going to buy it. She instantly shot daggers at me with her eyes and said, excuse me? I was here first, and I need it more than you. I have a customer that ordered it, and I need it now, so please hand it over. That's when it struck me. She's a reseller and had promised something she didn't have. At that point, I didn't. I was pretty much like, oh well, that's not my problem. But maybe they have more in the back. You should ask someone that works here. And went about my way to finish my shopping. As I was walking away, she snipped. You're a real jerk. You know that? I sarcastically responded. Maybe, but I got what I came for. Have an awesome day, and walked away. I made my way to the laundry detergent aisle and quickly forgot about the lady. A few minutes later, as I grabbed some detergent and dryer sheets, I stopped to check what else was on my list. The same lady entered the aisle and quickly said, there you are. Listen, I asked an employee and they said there aren't any in the back and they don't know when more are coming in. I would appreciate if you would do the right thing and just give it back to me before I find a manager and tell them you took it out of my hands. I quickly responded, huh? What are you talking about? This toy was on the shelf and nobody else was around when I picked it up, so please leave me alone. You can't have it, and that's it. I tried to walk out of the aisle when this crazy Karen stepped in front of my cart, reached into my cart, and tried to take the toy. I quickly pulled the cart back and said, what is your problem, lady? Get away from me! She then tried again, but this time I put my hand on the toy before she could grab it. She then dug her nails into my arm before I smacked her hand away with a loud, "What the heck, lady? Get away from me!" This is when the crazy Karen went into overdrive. She instantly started screaming for help at the top of her lungs. "Help! Help! He's attacking me! Help me, somebody!" Naturally, a bunch of people quickly came over to see what was going on. And there I was, a 6'3" man with tattoos and a shaved head and beard standing there as she threw herself on the floor. Yes, she actually threw herself on the floor, screaming for help. I thought to myself, this is going to end badly for me. 2 employees were a couple of aisles over and came running. Now there were a few people and the employees looking at this Karen on the ground pleading for help and screaming for someone to call the police. The employee asked what happened while helping her up from the floor, and she immediately lied and said that I had attacked her and took her items from her cart. I quickly stated that this crazy lady is lying and she attacked, then threw herself on the floor to get me in trouble. A manager shows up and asks what happened while Karen is standing there with crocodile tears, saying that I attacked her over the toy. I quickly denied the false accusations and demanded the police be called. The manager had the police called and I waited right there. The lady had a crowd of people around her, consoling her, and they're all looking at me like I'm some sort of a monster. All the while, she's telling everyone around her what a monster I am and that she intends to press full charges on me for assault. After about 10 to 15 minutes, 2 police officers show up and start to ask questions about what had happened. I explained what happened from the beginning to end, and she told her twisted fairy tale. The officers asked if the security cameras had a shot of the area. We were escorted to the manager's office, and while one officer reviewed the footage with the manager, the other officer asked for our IDs and stepped out of the office, more than likely to do a warrant check, I assumed. This is when glorious karma showed up. After a couple of minutes of the officer reviewing the camera footage and her continued lies about what had happened, he asks Karen, "Ma'am, I'm only going to ask this once. Would you like to change your story about what happened?" I instantly smiled from ear to ear. "What are you talking about? He attacked me and I want him arrested," said Karen. The officer responded, "Ma'am, that's not happening." He then turned to me and asked if I wanted to press charges for assault. My answer? Oh yes. Karen went pale as a ghost. She went on a tirade. Just then, the second officer came back into the office, handed me back my ID, whispered something to the other officer, and then asked Karen to stand up and put her hands behind her back and arrested her for an outstanding felony warrant along with an assault charge. What an awesome outcome. The manager apologized to me for all the trouble as Karen was led out of the office in cuffs. The officer photographed the scratches on my arm for evidence, gave me a copy of the report for court, and wished me a nice rest of my day. The manager even gave me a $50 gift card that I used to pay for my purchase and went about my merry way. All this over a toy and self-entitlement. Am I the jerk for telling my mother-in-law that my engagement ring is cursed? I, 26, female, just got engaged. My soon-to-be mother-in-law is a nightmare. We are currently renovating a part of our place, and she has been lent a key in the meantime because she keeps coming over uninvited under the guise of helping clean up, but she really just likes to snoop and interfere. I do a martial art and take my engagement ring off before class. I came home from an afternoon class one day and my engagement ring was not in the jewelry dish that I usually leave it in. I asked her about it and she told me that she had taken it into a jeweler to get it cleaned. She looked super smug about it, and when I asked which jeweler, she pretended she couldn't remember. I didn't want to give her the satisfaction of having a reaction to it, so I just let it slide for a couple of days. A couple of days pass, and I ask her about it again, and she's super vague, still pretending she can't remember which jeweler, and saying she's too busy to go pick it up anytime soon. So I said, "Wow, I really feel for that jeweler. Hope nothing happens to her." She asked what I meant, and I told her that my superstitious Brazilian grandmother had performed some traditional ritual on it that's usually known to curse anyone who takes or handles the ring other than the owner. She looked uneasy and asked me a couple more questions about this ritual, and I made some story up about how my mother's ring had been taken by a burglar who was crushed by a pillar of cement on his way out of the house. I totally made this entire thing up, and I do have a Brazilian grandmother, but obviously she did not do some ritual to my ring. The next day, my fiance told me while I was out that she was there to clean up a bit. Lo and behold, I get home, she had already left, and find my ring where I had left it. It didn't look any cleaner than it had before. A week later, I received a very mean phone call from her saying she had been in a minor car accident and she was blaming me and my witch doctor grandmother, saying she was now cursed for having touched it. I passed the phone to my fiance, who tried to calm her down, but she was hysterical. I told my fiance what I had told her, and he scolded me a bit because we both know how she is, and I should have known she'd react this sort of way. It's been a further week since then, and she refuses to talk to me and keeps slandering me to my fiance. Overall, he sort of recognizes how ridiculous she's being, but the drama of the situation is making me wonder if the whole curse tale was taking it a bit too far. So, am I the jerk? Update. I really did not expect this sort of a response to this post. Thank you all so much for the awards. Fiance and I have had a big chat, and he's admitted he has to step up when it comes to his mother. He retrieved her car an hour ago, and he told her not to worry about the curse because it would have no effect on anyone who touched it without malicious intent. Big thank you to the commenters who suggested that absolutely gold approach. Not the jerk. That's hilarious. The nerve of her taking your ring. She deserves the curse. I'm just sorry it's causing trouble for you. I kind of think your fiance earned it by tolerating her behavior and not having changed the locks already. Also, have you checked your ring? I don't understand why she'd take it unless it was to keep it away from you. Does she disapprove of the engagement, or of you taking it off, even if it's for a good reason? Was she going to swap stones or claim to have lost it? I'd really need to know her motivation for taking it. You might want to come clean before she meets your grandmother at the wedding though. Not the jerk. You should tell her there's no way she could have been cursed since she took the ring with good intentions, and the curse only curses people with bad intentions. The reason you were worried about the jeweler is because some jewelers will steal rings and swap them out for fake stones, and you didn't know how honest the jeweler was because you didn't know them at all. I'll bet she chokes on her own lies rather than admit she stole it to steal it. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or mother-in-law? Please let us know. I say she deserves the curse. Nothing's worse than an out-of-control mother-in-law. Ain't that right, Reddit boy? Story of my life, Karen. Story of my life. Take all the phone equipment out? You sure? Back in the dark ages, before Netflix, telephones at businesses used to be fixed lines with wires connecting the phone jack to a switching room. This was in the mid-1990s. I worked for the concession company at one of those huge event venues that hosted concerts, hockey games, and trade shows. I was the third in command, of sorts, in charge of being sure all of the concession stands were properly stocked and ready to go as each event began. I would fix stuff, set up the beer stands, and just generally be sure everything was ready to go. Overall, it was a sweet gig with backstage access to every concert as our office was next to the performer's dressing room. But all good things must come to an end, and the corporate office decided to not submit a bid to renew our 10-year contract. There was a fixed end date, and to plan the transition, there were a couple meetings with the new company that would be taking over. Okay? One major point of discussion is what would be left behind that was owned by the venue and what our company would be taking. Most things that were owned by our company that would be a pain to take were offered to the new company at a low price, a real steal. Beer coolers, central CO2 tank, grills, popcorn machines, etc. And the new company agreed to buy it all until we got to one item, the phone system. The building was huge with massive concrete walls and floors, so cell phones didn't work so great. So our company had installed landline telephones, all connected through the building's central telephone switching room. As our company paid for the phone system and it wouldn't be worth it to take the phones with us, we offered it to the new company for $500. They said no. A bit later at lunch, I heard one of the representatives for the new company laughing about the offer of the phone system. He muttered something to the effect that they could just hook their phones up to the wires and be ready to go for much cheaper. At the end of the meeting, we reviewed what was agreed. And in going over the phone equipment, the other company's representative said, "No, just take it all out." Okay. Now my boss, L, was pretty cool and a bit impish. Her boss, D, the head guy at our site, was a very straight-laced conservative guy. He didn't seem to have that slightly devilish streak in him. But when I came to the office the next day, D and L told me to do exactly what the other company asked for the phone system. Take it all out. I spent that day going to each concession stand, taking the phone off the wall, unscrewing the plate for the phone jack and removing that, and then pulling the phone lines as far as I could and reaching down into the wall to cut the wires. Each stand was left with a hole in the wall and phone lines that were cut about an inch below the edge of the hole. A fond farewell. The end of the contract was coming, and the very last day of our contract, I had the sad duty to deal with the leftover alcohol. Corporate did not have any other locations in our state with a liquor license, so we could not transfer stock to other locations across the state lines. D gave the order to pour the remaining liquor down the sink, and then he promptly left for lunch. With a wink from L, we poured a few partial bottles down the drain to give the office that smell of booze, and then we loaded the trunk of L's car with as many mixed cases as would fit and put the rest in our company van. L knew I didn't have a car, but she then suggested that I drive the van to get it washed, and what do you know? When I got back, the van was sparkling clean and empty of any boxes of booze. The aftermath. That winter, I attended a hockey game at the arena and noticed the hole still open in the wall of the concession stand. I guess they didn't just hook up their equipment to the wires after all. Am I the jerk? I bought my ex-wife a new car and helped her with some bills. Now my wife is mad. My ex-wife was a stay-at-home mom during our 16-year marriage, and since we got married very young, she has very little job experience and is in her 40s. She works at a diner as a waitress currently. She no longer receives alimony from me since she's remarried, automatically stopping the payments, which were originally lifetime, due to the fact that she was in her mid-30s with no education or job experience. Well, now that they divorced, she's had to get a job, since unlike with me, she didn't get hardly any spousal support from her last husband. The thing is, she doesn't make enough to really do much of anything. I have a lot of disposable income, likely more than people reading this would be willing to believe, and she has no disposable income. She fell way behind on bills and reached out to me as a last resort. So I asked my wife, thinking she'd say okay. She did not, and almost immediately after, my ex and her car were involved in an accident. She had a hospital bill which totaled $77,000, and I paid that expense, along with buying her a new car, and gave her the money to catch up on bills, with extra to pay her monthly expenses till she gets back on her feet. My wife was upset when she found out. She claims my ex needs to fend for herself, but my ex is only in this position because she had to drop out to take care of our baby and ended up just staying home. When we split, she didn't have the credentials to make a living wage. I had quite literally no choice. I told her it would be cruel to watch the woman who enabled me to get to where I am suffer. She lost it and now won't talk to me. Not the jerk. It's one thing if she would be pestering you for money or trying to take advantage of you, but it's another if they're down on their luck. It's important to take care of the people that got you to where you are and that you've spent a significant amount of your life with. You ultimately went separate paths, but that doesn't mean you should watch them crumble. What you did was incredibly generous, and I'm sure it doesn't go without appreciation. That kind of act is honestly life-changing for the recipient and incredibly rewarding for you as well. I understand your wife's point of view, but I think you should really try to widen her horizons to see the bigger picture. You're not being extorted. You've made the decision yourself as an adult and weighed any repercussions. Not the jerk. Your ex-wife was a victim of divorce rules that don't make a lot of sense in this situation. Her new marriage didn't magically obviate the fact that in your partnership together, she took the stay-at-home duties at the expense of her future earning potential. Regardless of the law, you have a moral obligation here, or at the very least, you are not being the jerk to feel that you have a moral obligation. It's complicated because you also have an obligation to your current wife to work in partnership. Ideally, that should not just be about your shared decision-making, but also shared values. She is being a lot more selfish with your money than you are, which is possibly justified, but still mildly jerky given the obligation that you feel. You're the jerk. Your ex-wife had lifelong alimony, and I'm assuming it was a decent amount by your comment of how much disposable income you have. So not only were you paying her alimony, but since you had a baby, she was also collecting child support due to your sizable disposable income. I'm going out on a limb and would wager the child support was also a decent amount. Your wife could have chosen to not get remarried and not lose the court's award of lifelong alimony, which is extremely generous. That was her choice. She also got divorced for a second time. People make choices in life. She was a wife 2 times and a mother. She is not a child. It is nice of you to give at a minimum $100,000 to your ex-wife. However, you are doing it at the detriment of your current wife. If my husband were to give his ex-wife a minimum of $100,000, I would be aggravated, to put it mildly. She had a comfortable situation. She got remarried and she ended that arrangement. You're the jerk for actually still giving her the money. It is not your fault she got remarried. Her and her ex-husband could have lived together. They did not need to get married. I feel bad for your current wife. Well, who do you agree with? OP or his wife? Please let us know. If you gave $100,000 to your ex-wife, you'd need a new head. Guest complains about me to me. This happened a couple of days ago, and I'm still laughing. I was covering the front desk while the front desk person finished delivering lunch stuff and a lady comes in. The check-in goes fine, and as I'm handing her the key card, she sees the front desk person bringing back the trolley with a couple of dirty dishes, etc. On one of the plates was a cinnamon bun. The guest points to the bun. Guest, can I have that bun? Me, alarmed that she's about to take a bun off of an obviously dirty plate. Me, ma'am, that's a dirty plate. Yeah, but they didn't touch the bun. It's fine. Me, I can't let you, unfortunately. Karen, can I have a fresh one then? Me, that comes with a breakfast package, and you'll get a fresh one tomorrow morning. They're great. Karen, isn't there another one I can have? Me, we bring them in fresh each morning, one per guest, so we don't have any more, I'm afraid. But the cafe that bakes them is about 20 steps from here, and sometimes they'll have stuff still available, but they're often sold out because they're so good. You're going to eat that bun as soon as I leave, aren't you? Me, I assure you, ma'am, I'm not. Guest leaves angry. I won't let her eat a garbage cinnamon bun. Fast forward a couple of days at checkout time, I get a call from front desk as a customer wants to escalate a complaint about an employee. So I head to the front desk, and there's Cinnamon Bun Lady. Me, hi ma'am, I can speak with you over here. And I direct her to speak with me in the waiting area. Me, I'm very sorry you've had a bad experience. Can you tell me more about it so I can make things right? Karen, when I checked in, your employee wouldn't let me have one of those free cinnamon buns and was very rude about it. I blinked a couple of times, and then it dawned on me. She had forgotten it was me. Me, still not quite believing she doesn't recognize me. Can you tell me what they looked like? Karen, gray hair. Yes. Glasses. Nope. Tall. Complete opposite. And wasn't even in uniform. Management has a different dress code, and I feel like that's the norm. How do I know that wasn't someone just stealing my information? Me. All right, I have their description. Did that person give you a working key card? Yeah. Me. Then they would have to enter a functioning staff number to program your card, so I can assure you that it was an employee. Well, do you know who it was? Me. Still not believing this woman was being serious. Yes. Can you make sure she's not allowed to be rude anymore? People won't come back when you have staff like that. I'm going to leave a review and forward it to your boss. I still can't quite believe she didn't know it was me. But regardless, I can't imagine getting this angry over me not letting you eat food off a stranger's plate. Like, how are you even still alive? She 100% emailed my boss her review, and it's one of those reviews, when you read it, it becomes immediately clear she's just extremely angry I told her no. Am I the jerk for not giving a stranger my brother's iCloud password? I, female 20, have recently been contacted by a stranger via email regarding them purchasing my brother's, male 17, old iPhone 8. They are unable to remove his email from the phone without his password and found my email in his contacts after my brother didn't answer. I confronted my brother about it, who said he never sold his iPhone 8 because he couldn't find it anywhere. We moved before he sold it, so there's a chance it got lost. He doesn't use it, so whatever. My mom probably sold it. This man starts asking for my brother's iCloud password to remove the email from the device. I refused and asked him where he got the phone and who sold it to him. He told me he bought it on Facebook from a young man in a city 1.5 hours away from us. We've never been to this city, and my brother is too young to go on his own. I told him it must have been stolen from us, and I will not provide him the password. However, if he could somehow manage to get it to us, we could enter the password for him. He said no, which is understandable. I recommended he contact Apple for a factory reset. I wanted to help/give him advice without providing a password. Today he responded to me saying, "Thanks. Oh, and just so you know, it's not hard to change a password. I'm not a moron." I told him we're not responsible for him being sold a phone that was stolen from us and not obligated to share an email password with a complete stranger. He called me names, told me to lose the attitude, stop responding to his emails or he'd report me. Not the jerk. Your brother's phone was stolen, and this guy wants the key to any and all info stored on the cloud? Big nope. Big red flag. Then when he doesn't get his way, he calls you names and threatens to report you? Call the cops on this idiot. He's probably the one that stole it. Get your brother's phone back, even if he doesn't use it. Not the jerk. That guy was a moron. I bought a used phone, and it shows that someone, who wasn't the guy who sold it to me, actually owned it. You think it might be stolen, dude? Really? How stupid was that guy? You should contact your former cell phone provider and report that the phone was stolen. Karen, my boss, keeps judging my relationship. I love my job, and when my boyfriend's, been together 3.5 years, job was taking too long to bring him back, I got him a job working with me. It's been great. No one acts weird. Honestly, for the first month, no one even knew we were together. We've made a solid circle of close friends and coworkers, and it's a healthy environment for the most part. My assistant manager, 30 female, brings up our relationship a lot. About how she could never live and work with someone that she was dating, how spending so much time together is toxic, etc. My boyfriend has dancer friends who sometimes visit our workplace. They are lovely girls and we hang out occasionally. They're older than us, in their 30s, and we are 23, beautiful and intelligent. Honestly, they act like moms or older sisters, and I love the friendship. My assistant manager consistently talks about how secure I must be to be okay with how they act together. They call him Babe, but they call me Babe too. And she tried to tell me to watch out for them, how my boyfriend seems too friendly with these ladies. He's friendly with everyone, and just started venting her opinions about my relationship. I told her I appreciate the concern, but to leave it be. We are perfectly happy. She pressed the issue, and I told her to mind her business and to focus on her own relationship. She said I was being a jerk for not taking what she was saying seriously and reevaluating my relationship. And since my relationship is a known thing, she has every right to say something about it. Am I the jerk? I mean, I get workplace and dating opens Pandora's box, but I think she was out of line. Please report her to HR. She needs to learn to mind her own business. Am I the jerk for tipping a Dominos delivery driver? My girlfriend and I order in a lot for date nights for logistical reasons. Like, a lot. She really likes Domino's pizza. It's an easy food for her, and she has texture and sensory issues. I'm not gonna judge. I certainly don't mind anything, whatever she wants to eat. It's hard finding stuff she likes at restaurants that won't upset her stomach or set off the texture thing. She just has a thing where she is the one that has to order the food, and she never does more than 12% tip. Problem is, we've been ordering a lot, and the same guy has been coming the last half dozen times, and he's always been great. Never a problem. Friendly, on time, hot. No issues with the pizza going sideways and being a mess when it arrives, and so on. One time, he even grabbed us an extra thing of garlic dipping sauce, and she wasn't complaining when she used that. When I saw his name yet again this time, it's an unmistakable name. I started thinking. I grabbed a $5 from my wallet and brought it with me when I answered the door. I asked the guy, "Hey, can you accept direct tips, like from me?" And he said yeah, so I offered him the money and took the food. My girlfriend overheard and got on me about being a condescending jerk about the fact being a regular Joe, just trying to make ends meet is hard enough without pity handouts or my savior complex. Plus, she said I was undermining her, which was the big thing, and that she feels I just called her cheap and undervaluing work, despite her having been in retail, but she said that's literally what he gets paid to do. That's the bare minimum, and that's that. It's really messed up date night, and she's super upset with me now. I just wanted to recognize that this guy was doing a lot of work and helpful and always nice to us, that he even goes above what we ask. I don't know, maybe it came across condescending, and like I was calling her tip not good enough. Update. Girlfriend and I patched things up. She had gone off the rails due to the realization that she was under-tipping and felt bad about it. Instead of facing that, she said she pushed it to me because it felt like you had done something to make me feel like that when it was me to start with. She reacted badly, she knows it. She even knew it on the night of, but didn't know how to talk that over as well as understanding why she went off so badly. Everything she said, she apologized for. She grew up hearing her dad talk about tipping like that and didn't think she'd let it get to her. She said, "It was like every time I opened my mouth, my dad's words came out." She's ashamed and appalled by the things she said. I pointed out some of the things you all mentioned, definitely not the ones where you guys call their names though, especially the ones about wages. She had no idea that the wages changed on the road, how little reimbursement there was, and never considered the wear and tear aspect. She's also going to talk to her doctor about where to start with a potential ARFID diagnosis, or at least just looking into it, even if it's not specifically that. First things first though, our next delivery is getting a hefty tip, so are the rest. Oh, one more edit, because it's funny. I meant the pizza is always hot. Pizza dude's definitely not my type. Don't interrupt me while I'm on the phone. Hey guys, this happened to me yesterday at work, and this was the first place I thought to share it. So, I work in construction management, currently as a project engineer on a large site in New York City. My day-to-day duty is equivalent to a site superintendent, walking the site and ensuring safety procedures are followed and coordination between trades stays tight and efficient. Recently, the project manager I would answer to quit, leaving the rest of us on site struggling to pick up the many broken pieces he left behind for us. The PM that came in to take his place, Matt, has been coming to me on a daily basis to help him get up to speed on what was left over from my old boss leaving. Details like the status of certain trades, deliveries, locations of fixtures, you get the idea. Matt is a great boss and a really genuine guy. The type of person that is overly nice about everything. Well, except for one thing. He hates being interrupted while on the phone. Now that's a pretty reasonable request, one that we all follow even if we need some critical info from him, as we've seen him blow up once or twice after being interrupted. With the backstory out of the way, this is where the story begins. Well, yesterday there was a safety emergency on site, meaning I couldn't get by the office for a large chunk of the day. Finally, after dealing with said emergency, I stopped by the office as I had my own questions for Matt and found him on the phone with our architect. Now, knowing I'd be a fool to interrupt, I take a seat a little bit away and wait patiently, while also listening into the conversation being held. Matt was asking about the locations of millwork on site, as our blueprints do a terrible job of marking them out for us. The architect was also struggling to give him definite answers, as I could tell that Matt was getting aggravated. Now, unbeknownst to Matt, I had already put together a beautiful marked up drawing of the exact locations of every piece of millwork on site a few months ago, knowing that our drawings were lacking in this regard. Against my better judgment, I got his attention to try and let him know that he was wasting his time. This was met with an aggressive hand wave and scowl. I shrugged, laughed a bit inside, and returned to my desk to email Matt my marked up drawing. Well, about 45 minutes later, Matt gets off the phone and calls me back over to ask what I needed from him. "Oh, nothing," I said, "but you might want to check your email." Let's just say I now have permission to interrupt Matt while he's on the phone going forwards. Am I the jerk for embarrassing my brother's girlfriend? So I'll keep this as brief as I can. My brother started dating this lady, Jessica, in January. The three of us live in the same city, about 3 hours from me and my bro's parents/extended family, so until recently, I was the only member of his family Jessica had met. One of my brother's favorite things to eat is this sweet potato and red pepper soup I make. The relevant info here is that this soup features onions as an ingredient. Not enough that you'd eat it and go, "Oh wow, this sure tastes like onions," but enough that if you skipped them, it wouldn't taste right. I make this soup for him approximately once a week, and Jessica has come to love it as much as he does, without ever mentioning any issue after eating it. So the issue. My brother, Jessica, and I traveled to Bro and I's hometown for our grandmother's 90th birthday celebration this week. Our mom was catering it, specifically with traditional Indian foods, since that's where she and our grandmother are from. However, when we arrived and I offered to help Mom with the prep work, I noticed she was making several additional dishes, like chicken nuggets, chips, and finger sandwiches, and was keeping them well separate from the rest of the food. I asked what that was about, and she casually said, "I'm just making sure that Jessica can have something to eat with her allergies." I said I didn't know she had allergies, and Mom said, yes, she says she's severely allergic to onion, garlic, and coriander. If you're familiar with Indian cuisine at all, you get why it would be an issue for someone with those allergies. Except, Jessica eats my soup all the time. It has onions, and it's never caused her a reaction. The part where I may have been a jerk is I said this to my mom, which, if you're familiar with Indian mothers, you may understand how that could have been a bad move. She didn't kick off or act aggressive, but she did confront Jessica about lying and ask if there was something wrong with her cooking. Jessica got kind of red and stammery and eventually admitted that she just doesn't like all that curry stuff, but thought saying she was allergic would be less awkward. Mom got upset because she had taken such efforts to keep everything separate and whatever to avoid cross-contamination. Jessica got upset because Mom was upset. My brother got upset at me for saying anything in the first place. Everything got rather awkward, and Jessica ended up not even coming to the party. They now haven't spoken to me all week, except for my brother telling me I'm a gossipy jerk and I shouldn't have said anything. Which, yeah, I kind of get. Was I the jerk? I didn't intend to cause drama. It was kind of just a surprise. Oh, that's weird. My soup with onions in it doesn't make her sick. I feel bad for ruining her first impression with our family and embarrassing her. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or Jessica? Please let us know. Definitely Jessica. Tell Mom we'll take that curry. God, I love curry. Am I the jerk for telling my friend's fiance that their new house isn't his because he didn't contribute to purchasing it? I, 35 female, have a friend, Ren, 32 female, who purchased her first house recently with her fiance, Jack, 36 male. Fake names. Ren and Jack had us over this past weekend to see their new house at a housewarming/Halloween party. There were several people there. Some I knew and some I didn't because they were Jack's friends. I sat outside for a bit with Ren after having been there for an hour and getting a tour of their new house. I asked Ren how it felt to officially be a homeowner, and she said it was probably their biggest accomplishment so far in their lives, and they were both so excited. She said she can't stop looking at our county auditor's website and looking up the house address to see their name on it. I never heard of this. We live in the States, so I'm not sure if this can be done in other countries, and I asked her to show me. She logged into the county auditor website on her phone and showed me the property records. I saw Ren's name, but not Jack's. I asked Ren why that was. Long story short, she said that her credit score alone qualified them for a better interest rate, and since her parents gave her the $35,000 down payment, that she didn't want his name on it, since she and her family had the most to lose should something negative happen with their relationship or one of them passes. Her will was rewritten to leave the house to Jack as long as they are still married. Jack apparently agreed to this, and they plan to use this house for equity 10 years down the road, and at that time, his name will be on the new house. I knew about the down payment months ago when they started looking, but she said the house is still Jack's in her eyes since they are getting married. A few hours later, some people have left, and we sat outside around a fire pit chatting with Jack and a couple of their friends. I honestly don't remember what we were talking about, but Jack interrupted me and asked why I kept referring to the house as Ren's house and not their house. I didn't notice I was saying it, but I told him that maybe it was because the house is not his. He asked what I meant, and I mentioned the house on the auditor website only has Ren's name on it. Ren said who cares, and that he contributes to the bills and upkeep, and he lives there, so it's his house too. I said, with all due respect, it isn't legally. The other friends were quiet, but Jack laughed at me. I asked what was so funny, but all he told me after sipping his beer was to get the heck off his property. I told him it's not his property, and I wasn't going anywhere. Then Ren said, "Get off our property." I said Jack should be mad at Ren for showing me in the first place and left. I asked my sister about what happened. She said that his name not being on the records isn't relevant because when you marry, you share everything you have with your partner, and that I was out of line. But my dad said I wasn't technically wrong, and Ren was wrong for showing me his name wasn't on the house. Am I the jerk? Bruh. Had an interview. Are these red flags of a bad place to work? Had an interview yesterday for a bartending and server position at a nice pub in an affluent neighborhood. The restaurant is beautiful with high ceilings, chandeliers, fireplace, hardwood bar, large whiskey selection, craft cocktails, and comfort food. It is well rated on Google and Yelp. A few things I found odd during the interview. When I arrived early at the scheduled time of the interview, I had to wait because the interviewer told me he had to print out an application for me. I waited 20 minutes. Shouldn't a place that has posted on Craigslist and culinary agents and a scheduled interview have applications ready? While I was waiting for the applications to get printed, a server greeted me with water. I explained to her I was here for an interview and not dining in. She asked what position. I said bartender. She got a look and said, "Oh, good, we need bartenders. Shouldn't it be easy to staff a bartender at a place with $15 craft cocktails? Like, people should be lining up for this job." On to the interview. I ask about history of the restaurant. He tells me about the owners and says, "They are very blunt people. If they don't like something, they will tell you. Some people cry, but you need to realize it's not personal, and it's better they just get it out." All right. So what I'm hearing is they verbally mistreat their employees. Got it. Also says the new hires are complaining about not making any money. But he explains when you are new, you will not be getting good shifts and that you have to prove you deserve it. Kind of understandable, but I mean, how long would the waiting process be? He also told me there are servers who have been there for 10 to 15 years. No way those people are giving up their good shifts ever. I asked about how we got paid. He said in cash. I told him I was surprised since it's been 5+ years that I've had a restaurant job pay in cash day of. He proudly states that's how they do it and they'll never change. He says how guests will ask to use Apple Pay, and he again proudly states that is something they will never do. So what I'm hearing here is they don't change with the times. My biggest gripe is I asked if they offer health insurance and he didn't know. He said that before lockdown, he knew that some employees had insurance and the ones who had it then still have it now. So what this tells me is either they stopped offering insurance after lockdown or they haven't been able to retain any employees long enough to qualify for health insurance. Also, how do you not know? Isn't that a very common question prospective employers ask? Interviewer also seemed to be a bit of the "no one wants to work anymore" mindset. Unprompted, he went on a tangent about how on Facebook the job postings will get comments like, "Why didn't I get a call?" and how people assume an application means an interview. He doesn't want candidates with 4 jobs in 2 years. I agree to an extent, but if you're desperate for people, you take what you can get. I haven't heard back yet. I'm just sad because I've been applying everywhere since summer, and this is the first in-person interview I've had. I have 15+ years in the industry and an associate's. That place sounds like a nightmare to work at, to be honest. Maybe it's a good thing you haven't gotten a call from them. Am I the jerk for expecting my wife to look after our sick daughter for one evening? I, male 35, have a near 3-year-old daughter with my wife, female 35. We generally co-parent okay for the most part, although there are issues from time to time. My wife definitely socializes with her friends much more often than I do. My friends live further away, which leaves me solely responsible for taking care of little one. She maybe has around 1/2 nights out a month, whereas it's even less for me. This is absolutely okay with me, and I don't usually text or call my wife during her nights out to try and let her enjoy herself. Last night, I had plans to go to my friend's house for a gaming night. The plan was roughly to leave at 7, be there at 7:30, and leave at around 12. When I get to my friend's, my wife called me to tell me that little one had been sick. I asked if she was okay and how they were both feeling. She said okay, and I said that if she gets worse, to let me know. For the next 2 hours, my wife puts texts and pictures in a shared family group WhatsApp chat, basically telling everyone in the family that little one is sick, and also making references to the fact that Daddy is out having fun while Mummy is holding the fort. I felt that that was very unfair and made me look like I had just ditched them. Visiting my friend was a pre-planned get-together, and I don't think it's an unreasonable expectation for the mother of my child to be able to deal with a bout of sickness. If she had developed some more serious symptoms, I'd absolutely have come home immediately, but this wasn't the case. It eventually got to 10 p.m., and she texted me saying that little one had fallen asleep. I said, "That's good. You can put her to bed now." She responded, "I don't want to move her. If she's sick, it'll take 2 of us to change her bedding." So she never explicitly said it, but this was basically her telling me that I needed to come home. So after getting 2 hours, most of which was spent checking texts and messages, I apologized to my friend and went home. When I got home, not only were both of them in bed, but my wife had taken the liberty of plugging in the monitor on my bedside table. Inevitably, little one got up a bunch of times during the night, which I'd have been fine dealing with after I had gotten home at my planned time, but I dealt with almost every wake-up call last night. This morning, my wife asked me why I was in a bad mood. I said she should be able to manage one night without me, even if she was sick. She said that I was selfish and that I needed to reevaluate my priorities. I told her that I go out of my way to ensure she isn't overly bothered or disturbed on her nights out with friends when I'm the one taking care of little one, but she said it wasn't a comparable situation. Am I the jerk for insisting to her that it's not unreasonable for me to expect she can handle a little bout of sickness with little one when she's the one in charge for the evening? Can't work from home without a doctor's note? Roger that. Let me start by saying I'm not from the US, but Europe. My company policy regarding working from home and office days is the following and not flexible. We have 2 set office days and 3 set work from home days. In the heat of the lockdown, the government obligated everyone to work from home, which we all did without any issues. As of recently, it's no longer obligated, only highly recommended if work from home is possible. Here we go on to the malicious compliance. My husband and I both woke up sick with a heavy cold. Nothing major. Cough, snotty noses, and sore throats. Husband called into work and informed his employer. They told him it's no problem and he can reschedule his appointments to team meetings to another day and work from home. I decided to call my employer too, to check the company policy as I have an obligated office day. I don't want to make any other colleagues sick and my job does not require my attendance at the office. I can work from home perfectly. My employer replied that I can only work from home if I provide them with a doctor's note mentioning that I am indeed sick and work from home is necessary. If I cannot/don't want to provide such note, I must come into the office, sick or not. Okay, I call my doctor, explain the situation, and ask how to proceed and what they recommend. The doctor didn't know what to say. My employer is actually asking for a note that mentions I am indeed sick enough to stay home, but not sick enough to stop working? Yeah, that's not a thing. So they told me that I am indeed sick, I will receive a sick note, and will not be working today or tomorrow either. On top of that, I must get tested because I'm pregnant and we must take no risks. I sent my employer an email with the sick note attached, mentioning that I will not be working and will get myself tested. My employer asked me if I will resume work after the test. Well, no. Unfortunately, I am sick and have a note mentioning I am not seen fit to work and am even in lockdown. So I will no longer be able to work at all for the time mentioned on my doctor's note they asked for. I guess I have free internet now. So I started a new job at the end of June. Better pay, better conditions, and lots of perks that I'm still learning about and trying to use. About a month after starting, I got called by my internet provider saying that my plan finished, and so the price is increasing. I was a bit annoyed, seeing as I was under the impression that my current plan increased already and was final. I could be wrong, but throughout the conversation, I was trying to protest against the price increase. At one point, I said something like, "Why are you raising the price? The prices for internet have gone down, and I've gotten the lowest bandwidth, 40 megabytes per second. I can get 10 times the bandwidth from another company for the new price you're giving me. I'll change providers if you increase the price." My complaints and protests fall on deaf ears. "This is the policy," and "There's nothing I can do." They also said, "These charges are final. Please don't call us about the charges again." I was planning on switching providers and started looking into prices, but I was very busy at my new job and kept putting it off. At one point, I'd learned that one of our perks, since we mostly worked from home, was to get a refund for our internet bills. Great, at least it won't be coming out of my pocket, I thought. It was retroactive from my start date, so I looked in my email for the receipts, and the last one was for July, billed in August. But at this point, it was already mid-September, and I wasn't charged for August. That's weird, I thought to myself, and decided to keep an eye on it. It's now November, and I still haven't been charged since August. I was worried that I might get disconnected, but at some point I mentioned this to a friend who said the same thing happened to him with the same provider, and he had free internet for a year and a half until he moved, and called so his new apartment would be connected. They said they couldn't find him in the system, and he joined as a new member. I was going to call them and tell them about this and ask to join a new plan, maybe cheaper. But then I remembered how they said that the charges were final and I shouldn't call them about the charges anymore. Fine by me. So I was only charged once at the higher price and I got that refunded. I guess I have free internet now. Am I the jerk for only paying half my bill at a restaurant when I was overcharged? My buddy and I went out to sushi yesterday. We go to this sushi place often and always go for the all-you-can-eat option. It's about $27. I think it's a great deal, because I'm a pretty big guy and a bodybuilder, so I eat a lot. Like a lot. I ordered 8 rolls. I ate 7 of them, but one of them I just really did not like at all. So I didn't touch it after the first bite. I expected to get charged for it because that's usually how all you can eat works. If you don't finish it, you pay regular price. Well, I get the check and the total is over $100. I see that they charged me individually for every roll. I call the waitress over and say there's been a mistake. I got all you can eat. She says that while I did order all you can eat, it's been voided since I didn't really touch one of the rolls. I asked why they didn't just charge me for the 1 roll and keep the all-you-can-eat bundle because I completely finished the other 7. She said that's not how this works. I asked to talk to the manager, who tells me the same thing. I said that makes no sense, and unless there's something on the menu stating otherwise about the terms of all-you-can-eat, I ordered all-you-can-eat, and that's what I'd be paying for. We argued a bit, and eventually I was just left staring at the bill. My buddy wanted to leave, so I just slapped a 50 on the table and left. I figured it would be enough for all you can eat, my Coke, tax, the roll I didn't eat, and the tip. Well, on the car ride home, I call my girlfriend and tell her what happened. She seemed shocked that I did that and said it was basically theft and it's equivalent to dining and dashing. I disagreed and told her I was just paying for what I ordered. Well, I asked another buddy of mine who was a little on the fence. He said they shouldn't have charged me like that, but it was messed up to just leave with half the bill paid and I should have worked it out with the manager. The buddy who got the sushi with me is 100% on my side. So Reddit, you decide. Am I the jerk? Not giving me the files I need? Okay, I'll do as you wish. I worked at a company, let's just call it us, as a hardware engineer. Customers would contract us to design, redesign, repair, analyze, etc. their projects and modules and so on. One day, a big long-term customer, we'll call the company ABC, called and it went a bit something like this. ABC, hello, we have a module which is not working. Can you analyze and fix it? Us, hello ABC, can you go into more detail? What exactly is not working? Is it hardware or software related? ABC, it's not working. Us, well, yeah, but what is not working? It's not working. All right. Can we have the technical document so that we can start analyzing them? ABC, no can do. But here's the faulty module. Me, how do you expect us to work on this module without having a clue what it's supposed to do? You'll figure it out. Okay, so basically this went on for about a week. After that, we just said okay. I asked my boss, since I was supposed to work on it, how I should go on with the task. My boss, crazy lovely guy he was, just said, you heard them, we have to figure it out. So complete reverse engineering of the module, and make sure you write down every single minute you work on it. Small side note for the non-tech savvy people here. A reverse engineering process is the long and tedious process of tracing every single copper trace on a board, basically starting with the finished product with the goal to redraw the schematics for it. Think of it like having a meal with 5 courses and in the process of eating, figuring out the exact steps the cook took to make it. So I did as my boss said. I re-engineered the whole module, drawing my own schematics for it, figuring out the inner workings, even taking a ROM dump, basically deassembling the machine code into readable source codes and tracing down the workings of the software as well. This whole process took something like 4 to 5 months for me and 2 others just reverse engineering this crazy module. After that, we finally started working on the errors and found out that there was a bug in the software causing the processor on the module to reboot like every 2 seconds. A bit of research showed that this module was part of an industrial controller system. Let's just say that if they were to put these modules anywhere in there, a lot of people would be without power. So after finding the error and fixing it by literally changing 1 line of code, writing the report and rescheduling a meeting with the client, I got back to my boss who was following my working hours really carefully for the project. It turned out there were a lot of work hours for that project. Through the grapevines, I heard the total cost of the client was totaling well over $300,000. So the meeting began and we presented our findings, showed the whole process we did, including the reverse engineering. This time we spoke to different people as to the ones who gave us the project. This time, the CEO of ABC was within the meeting too. At first, he asked where we got the schematics because they didn't look like they were made with their templates. We told them that we weren't given the documents, so we had to re-engineer everything. Easy to say, the CEO was livid. He immediately asked who told us that we couldn't get the documents. We told him. He thanked us, made sure we were paid 10% more than we billed, and hung up. The fallout came to us via an email from the CEO himself. He apologized to us that we had the hassle of re-engineering. Also said that if we ever have trouble like this again, we are free to contact him directly. Also, the guy who said, "You figure it out," apparently got fired on the spot. Least to say that even if it was a lot of work, I really have to grin every time I remember this. This happened about 3 years ago, and since then I quit the job to study to become a state-certified technician. After that, I will happily go back to the company since working there was a charm. Also, on a side note, after talking to the CEO of ABC and getting a few documents, we discovered that this software bug was over 9 years old in a safety first over anything else industrial controller system. Who would have thought? Stepmother stole my Xbox, so I called the cops on her. My stepmother and my father are extremely overbearing. They think my boyfriend is not competent just because he's a young dad. My age is 19, my boyfriend is 20. Our kid is 4 months. My parents are constantly nagging my boyfriend about how he parents our baby. They especially hate how he plays GTA in the same room as him. I don't see why it's a big deal, because it's not like our kid is even gonna watch it. On Halloween, we had a ton of people over, including friends and family. Sometime during the party, my boyfriend's Xbox vanished. After the party, we texted all the guests asking if they knew where it went. My lovely stepmother said she took it to her house so that boyfriend would no longer be able to play GTA in front of her grandson. She refused to return it to us. I called the police department and a cop made her return it. Everyone is saying that I'm just freaking out over something small. Even my boyfriend said that getting the cops involved was dramatic. Was I making a mountain out of a molehill? Am I the jerk for getting the police involved after I got into a car accident? So I, female 36, was on my way home from work yesterday. I drive a RAV SUV, and the road I was on was a 4-lane road, 2 one way and 2 the other, just off the interstate. I had pulled into the left lane, which after a couple miles becomes a left turn lane, and in the right lane next to me was a smaller car. I didn't think anything of it when they sped up, but when they cut across my lane and were trying to U-turn, which because of where we were at the time was not only illegal, but really dangerous, and I slammed my brakes, but unfortunately I couldn't stop in time. I ended up slamming into the side of the other driver's car. As we were both stopped in the middle of the road, I got out of my car and went to check on the other driver and their passenger. They were teenagers, a boy and a girl. I asked if they were okay, and thankfully no one was hurt. They got out of their car and looked at the damage on their car and mine, and I was already calling 911. Luckily, there was an off-duty EMT from the local fire department behind us, so he turned the lights on in his truck and pulled up to check on us. He had seen the whole thing. The kids begged me not to get the police involved because the boy that was driving would lose his license and offered to pay me off so they could leave. I was shook and trying to stay as calm as I could. This is where I might be the jerk. When they were begging me not to call the police, I sternly told them no, and that the accident needed to be reported and that I needed the report for my insurance company. The kids started freaking out, and the girl called her father and told them a Karen was calling the cops on them. The boy was just sitting in his car, barely said a word. When the state trooper showed up, he gathered our licenses and registration and asked what had happened. The EMT and I explained that the kids had cut in front of me, and I told him how they had tried to pay me off so they could go, and the kids admitted to trying to pull a U-turn because they got off on the wrong exit. The cop chewed them out for reckless driving and pulling an illegal U-turn and went to his car to run the licenses. The father of the girl shows up not long after and doesn't say a word to me, which was fine by me, but stares daggers at me while taking pictures of the front of my car. After the trooper was done, he goes over to the kids and gives them a copy of the accident report and tickets the driver, then gives me a copy of the report. Thankfully, they were insured, so I can have my insurance company deal with that. The damage to my car wasn't as bad as theirs. It was drivable, but it still busted up the front right side enough to need repair. Plus, as I was getting closer to home, I started smelling something burning, so I had to stop and have it towed to the dealership repair garage. My car isn't even 6 months old. Update. Just finished up with getting a repair estimate from my dealership body shop. I'm looking at around a $3,000 repair job. I spoke with my insurance company and they helped me file a claim with the kids' insurance company. Just waiting on the company to give me a call back because they need to send one of their adjusters out to look at my car as well before we can move forward with this. Wondered why my local coffee shop was low-staffed. Now I know why. I, 19 male, decided to quit my job and decided I wanted to work as a barista. So I started looking and found a good reviewed coffee shop close to my home. They were hiring, which I found odd considering it's a very good-looking shop that they got going. So I went in and met the owner. She gave me an interview and it went smoothly. Moving forward, first day on the job, they don't have a training course for newcomers like me who have absolutely no clue about coffee or the equipment. So the employees made me work on grinding espresso, making shots, crema, etc. It all went well. They were super nice to me throughout the process, grateful for it. So I wrote down everything they told me and watched. Second day, I did everything that I was taught to opening the lights, cleaning windows, cleaning tables, opening the cash register and counting the money in it, and opening the espresso machine, grinder, kettle, etc. I did it all correctly. It was just me and the owner because the employee that taught me yesterday had to get a surgery. Owner asked what I was taught yesterday, so I told her. She goes, "That's it?" I was a bit irritated by the way she said it. I thought I learned pretty well for a first-timer, but boy, was I about to be in for a wild ride. Customer walks in and asks for a cappuccino, so I did like any first-timer would do, pull out my trusty note and measure. But no, she said put it back and scolds me for not remembering. And for the whole entire day, she treats me like I'm a jerk for not knowing what I was doing. When I asked her to teach me the things I don't know, she was irritated. I was miserable. Sure, the employee taught me, but they didn't teach me everything. Third day, unsettling feelings start to come, but thankfully the owner wasn't there. Same routine goes, and I meet another employee, super nice and informative. And when I asked them questions, she would answer them instantly without hesitation and with pride. Customer came in and asked for a different extraction method, which I wasn't good at, and she knew that. So she told me to do the cash register. Everything goes buttery smooth, and when I pulled out my note to measure, she didn't judge me for it because we would remember things as we go. Fourth day, come to work early as I usually do to start my routine. I do everything they taught me. Owner walks in. My whole mood changed instantly. She asked me if I did my routine. I'm always an honest guy, so I told her yes. Doesn't believe me. Big Dumbo treatment comes. Scolding, scolding, scolding. I was miserable the entire day. She sees that I'm miserable and comes up to me and says, "You're not gonna quit on us, are you?" After saying that, she would walk back to where she came from and gossip, giggle right in front of my face. Like I could hear them talking about me. I've never had a problem with the customers or the employees. They're all so kind. But my problem is the boss. What should I do, guys? Is it my fault? What did I do wrong to deserve this? I wake up at 5 a.m. every morning to open her shop, clean, open, prepare espressos like they told me to. Edit. I never lied in the interview about how I knew how to make coffee. I was honest throughout the interview about how I don't know anything about coffee or the equipment needed to make it, because I needed them to teach me the things I don't know, and not just stand there like some jerk that watches other people do the work. Am I the jerk for buying my girlfriend fake perfume? I, 23 male, have dated my girlfriend, 19 female, for a little under a year now. I've come to love her a lot, and my love language is gift giving. My girlfriend has always been the type of girl that's just hard not to love. She's the definition of magnetic. Guys always approach her, and understandably, she's a high caliber girl. She could easily be anyone's dream girl. Looks amazing, and everything about her is feminine, down to her hands and how she comforts me or makes me food. She has an expensive look to her, but she does all her self-care herself and is amazingly cost-efficient about it. As a result, the kind of guys that go after her are usually trust fund babies or are highly ambitious, med school, law school, business startups, things like that, despite herself not being anywhere in that tax bracket. This isn't her fault, because I've seen myself that she never entertains anyone, but she just has that effect on people. It makes me feel like less of a man because I'm nothing like those guys, and honestly, it makes me feel like a bum. One day, while walking past her computer, I noticed that she was looking at a designer perfume, and I told her I'll get it for her. She's adamant that she doesn't want me to get it for her and that she was just kind of daydreaming about it. She's literally never asked me for anything, but I wanted to show her that I can take care of her and spoil her too. I look into it, and the perfume is $300. What the heck? I don't see the point in something like that, but honestly, my pride would be hurt if I went back on my word. So I find the perfume for a much greater value on eBay. Today comes and I gift her the perfume. She unwraps the present, sprays it on her hand to smell it, and her face is a blank expression, like she's trying to decide how to react. I ask her what's wrong, and she gives me a hug and a kiss on the cheek, thanking me that I wanted to get her something nice. I don't know why, but it made me feel like crap. I was expecting a much bigger reaction. I keep pushing her as to why it seems like she doesn't like her gift, and she tells me that she loves the idea, but it's obviously fake. I feel like this was an extremely ungrateful thing to say, and I called her a brat for even caring if the perfume is fake or not. I also said that she's materialistic due to the fact that she could supposedly even tell it was fake by merely looking at it and smelling it once. She says that it's dumb that I made a big show about getting it for her if I was just going to do this, and that what I got her is nothing like the original perfume, that it couldn't even be considered an imitation. I think it shouldn't matter, because I practically still got her the perfume she wanted, I just didn't drop $300 for it. This is making me see her in a different light. So Reddit, am I the jerk? Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his girlfriend? Please let us know. If Reddit boy got me a fake perfume, he'd need a new head. I expect my rules to be followed. Wait, not like that. I worked in the clothes section of our store, and it was not uncommon for staff and customers to ask fitting room staff to put clothes on hold for them by putting them in the back of the fitting room cupboard. All holds had to be picked up within 2 days or they'd be put back on the shelf, but everyone felt this was quite reasonable. A couple of months before Christmas, the department manager, for some reason, suddenly decided that staff were not allowed to put clothes on hold at all, even if it was just for a few hours until you finished your shift and could go to the registers. Nope. If manager saw clothes put aside for a staff member, she'd take it and screech, "I expect my rules to be followed," and "No clothes ought to be left in this cupboard," and go and put the clothing back on the shelf. She even printed out a note that said, "Staff are not to put items on hold. No exceptions." Yes, that was even how she spelled it. And stuck it inside the cupboard door where holds would have been kept. No justification was ever given for this rule. It wasn't like the staff holds were taking up space, as there would generally be no more than 1 to 2 items on hold for staff at any given time, if that. Also, when she pulled a staff member's hold items out of the cupboard, she would always rip it out as if she was trying to start a lawnmower, knocking several other items of clothing onto the floor, and she'd always just flounce out without tidying up any of the mess she had caused. Fast forward to maybe 2 weeks before Christmas. I was working in the fitting rooms on the evening shift, and manager walked in while I was on the phone with a customer, maybe 10 minutes before closing time. As I watched, manager put 2 pairs of women's pajamas into the cupboard. However, instead of just putting them into the cupboard where there was a gap, she pulled the few remaining returns forward and pushed these pajamas right to the back of the cupboard. I watched her do it. She saw me watching, but neither of us said anything. As a hardworking employee, I knew that I had to make sure the cupboard was empty of returns before I left for the night, so that whoever was working in the morning would have a clean start. So as soon as I got off the phone, I took all the clothes out of the cupboard, put them all back out on the shelf, and went and clocked out to go home. My following shift, I got screamed at for putting the pajamas back out on the shelf because they were for my mother's Christmas present, and saying that she was going to make me call her mother and force me to explain why she wasn't getting the pajamas she wanted. I said, fine, I'll explain that she doesn't get her pajamas because of your rules. Manager said, but I'm a manager. You saw me put them in there, so you should have just left them. Without saying a word, I swung the cupboard door open and tapped the "No exceptions" bit on her sign. She was absolutely fuming, but there were customers and other staff there, and she realized that she didn't have a leg to stand on and would only look stupid if she pushed it further. So she just stormed out. The fallout, if you could call it that, was that she sulked and basically wouldn't talk to me for about 3 weeks. But given that when she did talk to me, it was usually to micromanage me or tell me to do something I was literally already doing, example, hurry up and clean the fitting room stalls, as I was already sweeping up rubbish in there with a dustpan, I was quite happy with that. On a side note, some staff did try getting around this rule by putting stuff in the cupboard with no name on it, but that made it hard for other fitting room staff as we couldn't tell what was a staff hold and what was just returns that needed to be put away. Others tried writing fake customer names, but the manager caught someone doing this and started putting away clothes with a customer name on it because she wasn't going to let anyone get away with it. On more than one occasion, it turned out that she put away something that was actually on hold for a customer, and then us fitting room staff would get shouted at for it. A lot of us evening and night workers couldn't even go and quickly buy the clothes we wanted on our breaks because we worked short shifts and either didn't get a break or only got 15 minutes, and the registers were so busy and understaffed that there was no way you'd even get to check out in under 20 minutes. By the time our shift finished, the registers were closed. Give me my car back or I will have you arrested. Cast. We've got me, generally average, chronically depressed loser. We've got Karen, lady who is staying at our hotel. We've got general manager. We've got police officers 1 and 2. So I was working the front desk with my GM in the back, and generally things weren't irregular. People came in, got checked in, etc. Life was fine until a lady walks in and storms to the front desk, scowling at me. Oh boy, here we go. Where's my car? Your car? Yes. What happened to it? I don't know, ma'am. Is it damaged or something? It's gone. It's not there anymore? No, it's not. Where did you take it? I didn't do anything. I certainly didn't take your car. So after this loud exchange, the GM comes to the front, wondering what all the noise was. He asks what the problem is, and she yells at him as I let him handle the angry guest. He could already tell she was the unreasonable type of person who didn't care how things worked so long as it was in her favor. Seeing this, I'm glad to be out of the situation. I wasn't. As it turns out, her car was towed because she hadn't placed the parking ticket we provide our guests for free on her dashboard so that they can park at our hotel. This little rule was added because people don't care that our parking lot is not a free parking car lot where they can leave their car for an indefinite amount of time. You have to be a guest or do a park and fly with us for us to issue a parking permit for use. We hand them out to every guest and inform them every time that they need to place them on their car dashboards immediately, or our security will call the towing company we contract to tow their vehicle away. No, leaving it in your pant pocket doesn't count, sir. They tow all week, but their customer center is only open weekdays, and I think it was a Saturday or Sunday, so she was already in a bad way on that front. Her first version of events is we never told her that. The GM said that it's part of our standard check-in speech, and if she didn't listen, it's not on us. Then her next version is that we left her window open, and somebody must have stolen her ticket, and only the ticket. We called the towing company, and one of the few attendants mentions that when that vehicle was brought in with all windows closed, they didn't see a ticket anywhere. We asked if it was possible for them to bring the vehicle back so that we could just circumvent this whole issue and get her to stop throwing a fit at the front desk. They were closed and didn't have any drivers available to do that, as it was the weekend. Then, my favorite, she turns to me and ignores the GM entirely and demands that I bring her car back or she will have me arrested for car theft. I give her the most, "What the heck? Are you serious?" look I can, and my GM scoffs before saying we can't help her as the blame is solely on her. She storms off and I shrug, and my GM goes into the back thinking that she gave up. Well, if you read the cast of characters, then you can infer that I was wrong about that assumption. She comes in a while later, flanked by 2 police officers and a smug smirk firmly on her face as she pointed at me and said, "That's him. Make him give me my car back." They walk up to me and say, "Excuse me, we're here about a report on a car being stolen." I sigh and take a moment to pinch the bridge of my nose and give the lady a very deadpan glance before turning to the officers. "I assume Karen called you?" "Yes, she did." I roll my eyes and launch into an explanation of events and why her car has been towed. not stolen. Fortunately, the officers are very calm on the matter, and when they asked for more details on the towing company we have a contract with, they nodded in understanding. They did inquire if I called the company to return the car, and after saying we did but they were closed, they walked back to her. I could even catch one of them mutter, "Why are we even here?" After they talked to her and her growing more and more outraged, she finally threw up her hands in frustration, stomped off to her room, and left the next day. She trashed the room, but we had her card on file, so we got the last laugh. Am I the jerk for refusing to go to my sister's wedding because of her wedding dress? I have had a difficult relationship with my older sister for years. She is my half-sister, and due to a strained relationship with our mom, I've struggled with our relationship for years. At times, we have come together to support each other when our mom has been unreasonable, and at times we have clashed because I have seen how she has hurt our mom. My mom has done a lot over the years to help out us both, and a number of years ago, my mom bought her a house, but they ended up arguing a lot about it, and the family had been largely no contact with her. But since lockdown, I had been talking to her more and getting closer to her, which had caused arguments with our mom. During lockdown, I lost my job, moved house, and decided to open a bridal store in our city. My sister has also become engaged to her long-term boyfriend, which we were all really excited about and happy about. Who doesn't love a wedding? We had previously discussed wedding dresses, and she had tried one on before she got engaged, and once she got engaged, I told her there was no rush as she isn't getting married until 2023, and we would wait for the new season gowns to arrive before looking. She found a dress that she loved and told me she was booking an appointment to try it on. This was a gown that I could order for her from one of my designers. I didn't think much of it. Edit. I had offered her any dress at cost price, and she had not tried any gowns on with me since she got engaged. A few weeks ago, I got a phone call from her where she told me she really didn't like the dress she went to try, but she tried on other gowns and eventually spent over 2,000 pounds on a wedding dress. I told her on the phone I couldn't talk as I was busy. The store she bought from is one of my biggest competitors. I was really upset and felt disappointed. This is a brand new business, and my own sister doesn't want to buy from me. The more I thought about it, the more I realized I was disappointed that she hadn't even given me the respect to come to me, and she went to the other store and bought her dress on a whim. There is no time pressure or any particular reason. I was, and well over a month later, I get really upset when I think about it. I don't want to go to her wedding or have any involvement in her wedding now. As time has gone on, I have thought that it could be because she wouldn't want my mom to be involved, as she still is no contact, and I don't really see that changing. I respect and understand her decision, but I have personally decided life is better with mom and dealing with her sometimes challenging behavior. Our family has varied opinions as to whether I am right to want nothing to do with the wedding and whether I am overreacting. I honestly don't think I am, but maybe I am the jerk for getting so upset over a wedding dress. I can only book travel in coach class? Okay. Shortly before lockdown brought all manner of traveling work to a screeching halt, I was finishing up and getting ready to book my travel home. Normally, everyone would just fly, and in my case, that meant a nice short trip of about 2 hours in the air. However, this particular location and the route back home for me had an extremely scenic train route that took about 12 hours. And as a bonus, I could get a sleeper car for a pretty cheap price, less even than the flight. I asked my boss if there was any reason I had to fly instead of taking the train, as the latter would save them some money, and he said it would be fine. I didn't waste his time or mine by mentioning any of the above details. I simply booked my ticket and immediately sent in the receipt for reimbursement. Not 20 minutes later, I get an email paraphrasing, "What the heck is this? I thought you said you were going to book travel that would save us money. What do you think you're doing booking a sleeper car? You're not one of the big shots out here. Send me a new receipt for your coach class accommodations." Okay, as you wish. Cue malicious compliance. Since this happened so quickly, I was able to cancel my $150 train ticket without issue. And since there was no way I was taking a 12-hour train ride in coach instead of a 2-hour flight, I booked my air travel like I normally would and immediately sent in the $450 receipt for my coach class flight. I got yet another email asking me what the heck I was doing. Now, I'm good at booking travel, and I know how to find good prices. I knew that there wasn't a cheaper flight to be had, so I wrote back, "Sorry, this is the cheapest coach class flight I could find." If you can find a better one, please let me know before the 24-hour cancellation window closes, and I'll be happy to book that instead. Clearly frustrated, they told me to stop playing games, cancel the flight, and just buy the darn train ticket. I didn't. I took the flight home and got reimbursed per company policy for my coach class flight. Difficult customer wants his steaks. So this is not really my story. Our evening manager told me about this one, and I felt the need to share. At 9:15 p.m., a customer calls wishing to speak with the meat department. The department closes at 9, so the evening manager, Steve, takes the call. A man wants to know how many of the strip steaks we have on sale are left. Steve checks and tells him there are 7 left. Man thanks him and hangs up. 15 minutes later, the man calls back. He doesn't believe Steve and wants him to check again. Although annoyed, Steve agrees to check and tells the man there are now 6 strip steaks. The man shouts angrily, "I knew it! You lied to me!" To which Steve calmly responds, "No, sir. Another customer bought one since your last call." The man retorts, "We'll see about that. I'm coming down there right now, and you'd better have those steaks." So a little before 10 p.m., this middle-aged man comes to the registers with a few strip steaks, asking for the manager. Steve comes down, and the customer rips into him. "You lied to me," the man accused. "You said there were 6 steaks left, and there are only 4. Just barely keeping his cool, Steve replies, "There were when you called, but like last time, another customer bought some." Now fuming, the man demands that Steve go back and cut him some more strip steaks. Steve refuses since he's not a trained cutter, and even if he was, the department has been cleaned for the night. The man then demands a rain check for 30 strip steaks, since this is the last day of the sale. Steve says no, he can give him a rain check for up to 4 steaks, and to make up for his troubles, he'll let him have one of the 4 steaks he's buying now for free. Not good enough for this customer. He leaves without any steaks or a rain check and promises he'll be calling the store director in the morning for such terrible customer service. As far as we know, the complaint has not yet been made. Employer doesn't want me to waste 2 hours? They waste 40 instead. A number of years ago, I worked for a small, fairly local outsourcing company. I was assigned to work with a particularly high-profile client of theirs. The client's office was just around the corner from my employer, but my employer insisted that I remain within their own offices to work, so the client provided me with a laptop to use that connected to their network remotely. It's important to note that whilst the clients were decent, my employer had a totally fear-based management culture. The managers wanted eyes on the employees at all times because they assumed people could slack off given half the chance. After almost a year of working there, I got a call from the client notifying me that my client-given laptop needed some critical updates and I would have to bring it in so IT could apply the updates locally. All sounded very reasonable to me. I brought this to the attention of my manager and advised I would be out of the office for a while so I could take my laptop to the client site around the corner for critical updates. No bueno. My manager ignored everything about the critical updates part and focused instead on the out of our office for 2 hours part. They insisted that they knew I had a remote connection to the client's office, so any updates could be applied without me needing to leave and take my laptop anywhere. I got the impression they thought I was lying to get some free time off. I decided this had the potential to teach my employer/the managers a great lesson about not trusting their own employees. So, like the model employee I was, I shrugged, "You know best, boss," and complied with their request, continuing working as usual. Until the following morning, when I switched on my laptop and nothing would work. The machine refused to connect to the client's remote network. The various software applications I used for my job also wouldn't run due to the lack of connection. Error messages flashed up on every file I tried to access, warning that my credentials had been blocked. I was left holding a very expensive brick. My manager was livid when I explained I couldn't do any work. They clicked around on my laptop trying to fix it themselves, but there was no other solution to be had. They sent me around the corner to the client's office so I could hand in my laptop to IT. I took my time enjoying a coffee and breakfast in the client's on-site cafe while IT worked on my laptop. But when I went to check on it after an hour, I believe the client IT's manager's words were, "It's done for." The critical update mentioned before was intended to repair something wrong with the way the remote connections worked. When my machine didn't get the update, it lost connection with the client's network and immediately locked me out of everything, effectively blacklisting my credentials. IT manager explained that they would have to build me an entirely new machine and set up new accounts, a process that would take about a week to ensure everything filtered through correctly and could be tested. The client was fine and understanding about it, but when I returned empty-handed to my employer's office, my manager got extremely snotty with me and insisted I still had to work somehow. I pointed out that I had no client laptop to work on, so instead of sending me home, they forced another employee to share her computer with me. For the next week, me and my colleague shared her computer, 1 hour each at a time. As I had no access to any of my files, client data, etc., all I could do was the barest minimum of work, sending a few emails from my colleague's account. After a week, I got my new client laptop, and things went back to normal. But the week of sharing meant my employer had lost around 40 hours of productivity from 2 employees. The shared pain of the experience with my colleague brought us closer together, and when my employee lost their contract with my client a few years later, she helped me get a new job with my employer's competitor. Karen trespasses in our animal sanctuary because her husband donates to us. Me. What's going on here? Employee. That woman keeps trying to enter the Outback. She says her father said she could. The nickname for the part of the sanctuary with the more aggressive animals. Me. What? I walk over to the girl. Me. Miss, can I ask what you're doing here? Stacy. I came to see the wolf dogs. I saw them on your site. Me. I'm sorry, ma'am, but we do not allow people in there. Stacy. Oh, my dad said I could. Me. Who's your dad? Paul Ryan. Fake name for privacy. This guy is one of our benefactors. He donates a good amount of money to us. Me. Your father has no authority to give you permission to enter. Stacy. Yes, he does. He donates a lot of money. He pretty much owns this place. Me. No, he doesn't. That's not how donations work. Stacy. My father told me I could see them. To be clear, her father is an extremely nice guy, and I didn't believe for a second he told her this. He is not the entitled parent here. Me. Miss, with all due respect, even if I believe you, I wouldn't let you in. The wolf dogs are aggressive animals and do not react well to strangers. BS. You posted a video the other day of a guy playing with them. Me. Miss, that was the owner. He wasn't playing with them, he was trying to examine them. One of the wolf dogs was limping, and Jax was checking to see the issue. Poor thing had a sharp rock in its foot. He's all better now. Stacy. I came all this way to see the wolf dogs. Me. I'm sorry, but that is not going to happen. Fine. We'll just see what my dad says about this. Stacy leaves, and I figure it's all over. But no, she comes back with her mother. Karen. My daughter says you wouldn't allow her to see the dogs. Me. Ma'am, these are wolf dogs, and we do not allow people in there. Karen. My husband donates a lot of money here. You should treat my daughter with more respect. Ma'am, I'm sorry, but your daughter is not allowed in. Either you let my daughter in, or my husband will no longer donate to your sanctuary. Me. I'm sorry to hear that, ma'am. We will be sad to see your husband leave us. Again, didn't believe this one bit. So, you're just going to give up donations over something like this? All you need to do is let her in. Me. We do not give in to threats, ma'am. And while we are sad to see your husband go, our animals are the most important thing. Karen huffs and walks out, dragging her daughter, who is still screaming about seeing the wolf dog. The daughter was not a kid. She was at least in her early 20s. We get a call the next day from the father. He apologized for his ex-wife's behavior. Yeah, she's not even married to him anymore. They've been divorced for over a year. He also made it clear he has no intention to stop donating. As I said, he's a good guy, and I never doubted that. Am I the jerk for my petty response to my boyfriend's purposeful incompetence about chores? My boyfriend has started pretending to be bad at basic life crap, like dishes and laundry, like he can't do it, so I do it. I felt pretty frustrated with that and told him straight up that I knew he didn't forget how to clean since he moved in with me. He was always very competent living alone, and I didn't appreciate him forgetting how to do chores. I said that when I asked him to do the dishes, and he refused and refused until he finally did them wrong, that I was not that stupid. He said that he was trying his best and I was wrong for saying he was trying to manipulate me. And that from his perspective, I asked him to do something and he did it the best he could, and I kept at him because it wasn't up to my impossibly high standards, and he couldn't win. And he wanted me to believe him when he says he's trying. Anyway, this might be petty, but I decided to give believing him a try. So, he had bleach stained my favorite little black dress. Instead of getting mad, next time he had a family event, I put it on. He asked me if I was really going to wear that. It looked messy. I said that I loved that dress and understand accidents happen, so I wasn't mad or upset it had bleach spots. Actually, I thought it looked kinda cool. He said he really thought it looked bad, and I said if he wants, he could Sharpie on the white spots real quick in the Uber. It ended up looking even worse. Another time we were having dinner and he had done the dishes, but put some of the cups and bowls in the dishwasher upside down so they filled with dirty dishwater. I took those cups and bowls, dumped them out in the sink, but didn't wash them further and served his food in them. He said that it was dirty, and it was like, they just came out of the dishwasher. It's just water, it's fine. And I was like, they just came out of the dishwasher. It's just water, it's fine. He said that no, it was disgusting, and I said it was really no biggie. I was getting over my impossibly high cleanliness standards, and I really didn't think it was that gross. The last time I had cooked for a work party of his. After cooking, the dish needed to cool for about 30 minutes, then be refrigerated. I had plans with my friends that night, and I asked him to put the dish away after it cooled. He forgot. The next morning, he noticed the dish was never refrigerated. I said it was fine, it was just a mistake, and it would probably be fine to eat. There wasn't a lot of meat in it. He got frustrated and said that you can't serve meat left out overnight, even if it is only a little. And I said, oh, I think it should be okay. Stuff happens. He stopped being so lazy about chores after he realized I seemed totally okay with leaving stuff badly done and that he'll be living with it. But I feel a little petty for having been dishonest about it. I actually hate how my bleached dress looks, and my stomach turned at dirty dish soup and unrefrigerated meat. Am I the jerk for being petty? Help the boss hide the evidence of his affair? Sure. Years ago, I lived in a small town with less than 10,000 people. Everyone knew everyone, and since they all went to the same kindergarten, elementary school, and high school, most of them ended up marrying each other too. Yep, it's that small. I moved there for the adventure, something about the wilderness, I suppose. I was a single guy, and I also didn't know any better. It would be fun, right? Little does one know, a small town with only one industry that attracts mostly transient population of working men, 10 on, 4 off, and living in camp must be the definition of fun. I still don't know why I did it, or why I stayed for so long. Small towns are like black holes. Once you are sucked in, it's hard to leave. There's a story I heard about this town. There are 3 women to every 1 guy in this town, so you're a lucky guy. If you've spent every Friday night at the only pub, you will eventually realize it's the same 3 for every man. Like I said, because everyone knows everyone, it's inevitable some of them are hooking up, regardless of their marital statuses. My boss owns a business, and he flies out of the town often to the next biggest city because that's where his family lives and where the kids go to school. There's no way in heck his kids would grow up out here, he says. The wife can't stand the town, but would come and stay the week or even weekends every now and then. On some weekends, though, she would be in town, but he would have to go away on business. One weekend, on my days off, I get an urgent call from my boss who says he was out of town, but he needed me to quickly go into his home to help him retrieve something. He says, go through the basement door. It should be unlocked. Grab my laptop and all the receipts on the desk. If anyone approaches you, just be cool and pretend you belong there. Be quick and quiet. Want me to break into your house and grab property that doesn't belong to me? Anything for you, boss. As you can see, I really needed the job. I pulled up near the house, but parked further away. I surveyed the surroundings, took a deep breath, and walked quickly to the side of the house where the basement door was. Lo and behold, the basement door is unlocked. The muscle dog is in the backyard and could see me, but didn't bark. How useful to have a guard dog that doesn't bark. I entered the basement, and sure enough, there was a laptop that was plugged in and unlocked, and a Ziploc bag with receipts. At this point, I had no idea what I was getting myself into, but they are fancy restaurant receipts, concert receipts, and receipts for hotel stays. Before I closed the laptop lid, I saw the thumbnails of the picture folder. Everything now makes sense. Then I heard a lady's voice from upstairs, so I shoved everything on the desk into a bag and booked it. Now I was trying to be ninja sneaky on my exit, but the darn dog barked. I must have looked extra flustered when I looked back at the house and saw my boss's wife staring at me from behind the window. Oh no. I drove straight home and took a long shower. My heart was pounding so fast, I probably forgot I couldn't remove fingerprints from my boss's home this way. Hopefully, she didn't recognize me. My phone must have been going off the whole time because it was ringing when I got out of the shower. My boss asked, "Did you get it?" I did, but your wife saw me. Did she say anything? She only saw me as I was leaving, from a distance. Okay, this is what I want you to do. Drop this off at my office, put it into the drawer. I will deal with this next Monday. Sir, I think I know what this is about, and I won't say anything. But are you sure this is a good idea? Just do as I say. Okay. At this point, I think it's been at least half an hour since I was at the basement. I drove to the office, and there were cars parked outside. It's a 24/7 operation after all. As I entered the office, I saw one of the operations supervisors who asked if I was working weekends again, and I said yes. I moved quickly down the hallway and made a turn into my boss's office. The boss's wife was there in his office, in his chair, arms crossed, and looked upset. She said that she could call the police, or I could tell her what I was doing at her house. In the end, she will get the answer. She saw the grocery store bag I was holding onto and asked me what it was. At this point, I told her that I was told to bring this here, and I need to put this into the drawer next to where she's sitting. I placed the package and left, then texted my boss that the deed is done. Great job. Next Monday, crap hit the fan. I guess the boss's wife must have guessed the password to the laptop. I never got fired for what I did. After all, I did everything to a T. It was a tough next few months, though, as the boss and his wife worked through their divorce. The company ended up going into receivership, and everyone got laid off, including me. After years at this small town, I finally found a way and motivation to finally leave. Karen landed me a potential future job. When I was younger, around 14, I always wore collared t-shirts, often used as uniforms at most electronics stores. I had just started a simple job elsewhere and was going to use my savings and first payment to buy my first self-built gaming computer. So I was in a computer electronics store, trying to learn and make a few plans. Doing this as efficiently as possible, I like to get hands-on, and it helps me think and plan better. As I was crouching over components, like Gollum, trying to select my own components for the very first time, this lady came up to me and tried to get my attention. Me hunching over, knee-deep in my own thoughts, she asked me if I work here. As I was as focused as I was, it slightly startled me, and I jumped up and only managed to come up with a short, "Uh-huh," as I was going to ask her what she wanted, not being able to actually make out the question she just asked. She continued to ask me if I could help her, and I don't blame her considering my appearance. Me just having entered the job market, I had received some service experience and figured I might as well. The question probably couldn't be that hard, right? The following interaction ensued. We've got me, we've got the lady, and we've got the worker. Me. Yeah, sure. What do you need? Lady. I'm trying to find a laptop for my son, but I am completely lost. Seems fair enough, and a reasonable question to ask anyone with my appearance, regardless of me working there or not. Me. Oh, okay. Were you thinking school laptop or general use? Well, it's more of a gaming laptop, really. Me. Oh, okay. Do you have a budget or any other information that might be useful making a decision? Yeah, I have a budget of... Insert mid-tier budget here. And I know he plays Team Fortress 2 and Roblox. Having just spent a few weeks learning and recently acquiring the knowledge of what parts are important for what, I could confidently answer. Me. Oh, great. That doesn't necessarily require the most expensive computer on the market. Have you looked at any options? Karen, getting a slightly frustrated tone. No, that's what I came here to ask about. Me. Well, have you looked at any of the laptops displayed at the section over there? Pointing to the 2 rows of demo laptops closer to the registers. Karen, getting even more frustrated. No, I I have no idea what I would be looking for. That's why I came to ask. Me. Okay, I'm sorry. Well, anything between a lower amount than budget and your budget would probably be what you need. Just look for relevant specs at the time, and it would be more than enough for him. Can you join me so I'm sure? Me. Figuring at this point it shouldn't be a considerably longer interaction and I could get back to my thing. Just point out 3 options at 3 different prices and I could leave, so I accompany her over to the laptop section. Okay, so which ones would be an option? I point to 3 different laptops, make an effort to explain the differences in a short but precise manner. After concluding, I consider myself done. Beyond that, you could really just pick based on your budget. As I'm about to leave, she says, "So what can you do on pricing here?" Me, a little confused, quickly realizing the mistake that has just happened. "Oh, I'm sorry. I think there's a misunderstanding. Oh, come on. I know you guys have some leeway on the prices. What's the best you can do?" Me. No. You see, oh, don't you dare be more condescending than you were earlier. That should account in the price too. Probably referring back to when she was getting flustered in the first place. Me, a bit taken aback about what just happened. Oh, but I know you do. I know I can get a better one if you just work out whatever you have to. What about that one? Could we do 20% here? That seems reasonable. Me, you have to talk to... Fine, direct me to your supervisor, but you're coming with me. I don't work here. What do you mean? Why else would you be helping me? Now come on, let's bring this to the register and get something done. As we proceed to the checkout, which is rather close, she's literally dragging my tiny little self along as I make an effort to explain the mishap. When we get there to the register and a worker sees this lady literally trying to push me behind the counter, they ask what's going on. Karen. Well, this young man is going to honor his word and sell me this laptop at a 20% discount. Worker. Oh, he doesn't work here. Well, why has he been helping me? And promised me a 20% discount then? Your company is now responsible to keep that. Me. I tried to tell you, I don't work here. And whatever the case is, I will have this laptop for this price. Worker. I don't know what happened over there, but worker continued to explain what is about to happen next. I managed to slide away as I see a manager approach. From what I could make out as I'm lingering in the area, trying to get back to my things, the lady got upset and left in a bit of a hurry. As I was getting back to my things, the manager approached me, and me, thinking I was in trouble, I was about to apologize for making the lady think I worked there. He assured me I had nothing to worry about, and he had in fact watched me deal with the situation and told me some customers are like that with the real employees too. He apparently admired the way I explained things to her and asked if I ever needed a place to work, I would be welcome back. I appreciated it, finished my planning, and left. She wants an employee discount because she is a customer ordering food. So I work at a Wendy's. I'm assuming you guys are seeing where I'm headed. The position that I got is the more laid-back position, which is the back cashier. What I do is basically do the drive-through orders, so order their food at the machine and make them pay in the first window, while they go to the second window to get food and the receipt. When I got time, I'm supposed to wash the dishes and equipment. Also, at the time of writing this, I'm officially been working here for 3 weeks. Still pretty new, but I know the major parts, such as where the orders are. Also, training is the first 2 weeks, so I was still a trainee. So a woman pulls up from the window and greets me, and I greet her back. Karen. Hello. Me. Hello there. Welcome to Wendy's. How may I help you? Yes, I would like to order a Southwest avocado salad full size. Me. Sure thing. I would like to do the pairing. For those who don't know, pairing in Wendy's is usually when you get something like a half salad with fries or potatoes or a drink. Now, since I was pretty new, I didn't know how to pair, so I asked fellow employee to help me out. He's such a great guy, and he took over for me. Now, I didn't mean to be rude one bit. It's just that they were still teaching me. Fellow employee. Yes, hi. I'm sorry, this is a new person speaking. The other person is doing something else. How may I take your order? Entitled mom and fellow employee keep talking until she's done and is now headed to the second window. Now, fellow employee says, okay, she's all good. Just take the payment from her. Me. Hello there. Repeat the order. Yup, correct. Me. How would you like to pay today? Before I pay, I want to know who was the first person speaking. Me. Oh, yes, that was me. Sorry, I'm still a trainee and I didn't know how to do your order. So I asked my fellow employee to help me out. I'm super sorry about that. That was very rude of you. A customer shouldn't repeat their orders. By the way, she ordered a half salad with a Diet Coke. 2 things, so it wasn't very long. Me. I'm super sorry. Like I said, I just started working here and I don't know how to do many things. I think that you should give me a discount. Me. Ma'am, I haven't even received my uniform. Therefore, I don't have an employee discount. Until you finish training, you can't use all your perks like discounts and stuff. Entitled Mom. Well, you're going to have to give me some sort of discount. Me. Let me bring my manager to help, okay? I better get my discount. Hey, I know it's a jerk thing I did to bring others to help me, but hey, the tutorials they had online didn't teach me how to do discounts and stuff. That's like going to school and then going to the real world trying to do taxes. Not sure what happened after, because she told me to do the fry station so that she can deal with the entitled mom. Apparently, my manager said we couldn't do that, and we gave her better service by giving entitled mom the more experienced employee, and entitled mom freaked out and tried to jump through the window. My manager thanked me for telling her anything before I did anything. She said I was in the right and that I didn't do anything bad. She told me the best thing to do when a customer is rude or angry is just to ask for a manager. That is my story for today. Am I the jerk for telling my sister-in-law the truth about my brother? My brother, Joe, and sister-in-law, Jill, have been together for 10 years and they have 4 kids together. Joe works full-time at a factory and Jill has a very inconsistent work history due to her attitude. To be frank, Jill has a nasty, entitled attitude because she believes that Joe makes a lot of money and she doesn't really have to work. The reality, Joe constantly asks our parents and his younger siblings for loans that he never pays back. He also has everyone pitch in to buy their kids school clothes and shoes each year. Oh, and not to mention, he's always asking to use our cars instead of using his non-working wife's car. Our family has always fallen for Joe's sob stories because 1, we love the kids, and 2, his wife will not work to help support their family. Well, recently, my siblings and I found out that Joe is a huge liar. He's severely in loan and credit card debt, and he's a gambling addict. Turns out, he actually does make enough to take care of his family, but is so far in debt that he can't. We also found out from her family that he told Jill that she doesn't have to work. At a family holiday gathering, Jill approached my sisters and I, stating that their oldest daughter, Jill's 15-year-old daughter before marriage, needs to get a job. Jill then went on to say that she and Joe had jobs at 15 and they purchased their own first vehicles. My parents are wealthy, so Joe didn't get his summer job until he was 19, and my parents bought him not 1, but 2 cars by the age of 20. I was so taken back by the revelation that Joe has been lying to Jill about being able to afford their lifestyle. Without thinking, I told Jill that what Joe said was untrue, and that our parents, and in the last 5 years his siblings, have always taken care of him, even now at the tender age of 40. Jill called us liars like we didn't know our brother, so I showed proof of how he's borrowed thousands of dollars from just me, not including our parents and other siblings over the years. Soon, other siblings joined in telling Jill the truth about Joe. Jill was furious when she finally realized that Joe was not as financially stable as he claimed. Am I the jerk for telling her the truth? Additional info. 1. Jill knew about him gambling, but not the loans and credit card debt. 2. We just found out a couple months ago about his gambling. 3. I know everyone's irritated about Jill's nasty, entitled attitude, but she likes to keep up with the Jones, but has always hated to work. She's had many paid opportunities to go to college to start a career. She was accepted into nursing and physical therapy assistant programs, but refused to enroll. 4. Joe and Jill are both toxic and dysfunctional. 5. We haven't given him an unlimited supply of money. Sometimes it's just clothes, shoes, snack money for the kids. They're both neglectful of their needs. Am I the jerk for serving an Nutella cake? I have a daughter, Emma, who's 7, and she has a best friend, Kat, who's 7. They knew each other since prep school and are inseparable since. However, they're not allowed to stay overnight at each other's places as Emma is allergic to strawberries, which Kat loves, and Kat is allergic to nuts, which Emma loves, hazelnut and Nutella specifically. 4 months ago, Emma received an invitation from Kat to her birthday party, which has been accepted. I have asked Kat's mother before if I need to bring something for Emma, but she assured me everything is fine. When we arrived, the entire party was strawberry themed, and all the food, they only served sweet stuff, had strawberries in it. Due to this, Emma gave the present she made to Kat, and we left shortly after, as I don't want to expose my child to allergies. Kat was told that Emma wasn't feeling well and we didn't want to risk anything if she was sick. Yesterday was Emma's birthday. She wanted a Nutella cake. Someone was ordered. I have warned Kat's mom that the cake will contain Nutella, but cupcakes and other desserts are nut-free. She knew about that and everything went fine until Kat had to be rushed to the hospital due to an allergic reaction. Kat's mom forgot that Nutella contains nuts and let Kat have a slice while me and my husband were not watching. She called me a jerk as she felt I was getting back at her for throwing a strawberry party and now her kid is hurt. She also said it in front of Emma, so now she's feeling guilty and she won't eat anything. Am I the jerk for ordering a Nutella cake for my daughter's birthday? Edit. I just want to add, in my country, not English speaking, Nutella is advertised as a chocolate spread, not a hazelnut one. So a lot of people don't realize it contains nuts, hence why I had to warn Kat's mom about them. Civilian wife demands salute because of her husband's military rank. There are a handful of rules to saluting in the American military. The when, why, and how is drilled into you from boot camp until the day you leave. Even the order in which the salutes are rendered have meaning. When it comes to vehicles, there are helpful insignia and stickers to indicate if it's an officer, such as a colored sticker located on the front windshield. My base was small enough where it was everyone's job at some point to do sentry salute at the front gate, which had housing for military families. Sentry duty was pretty basic. You'd stop every vehicle, check IDs, and then wave them through. If they were an officer, you'd see it coming with those colored stickers, and after verifying the identity of the officer, you'd salute and send them on their way. One day while on duty, I approached a vehicle with an officer's sticker, and there was only the officer's wife driving in the vehicle. I returned her ID, wished her a nice day, and waved her through, pausing with a stern look. "Where's my salute, Petty Officer Citizen Alpha?" Now, Karen here was wife to a higher-ranking officer and has clearly fallen under the impression people are saluting her somehow along the way. Some of the junior enlisted might have even been saluting her as they're pretty easy to bully and pretty prone to mess-ups. I politely replied, "Ma'am, salutes are only rendered to commissioned officers," angrily pointing her chubby little fingers at the front of her windshield towards her husband's officer sticker. "I have a sticker, and you need to salute the sticker." Curtly, I continued, "I'm afraid that sticker is not an officer either." Frustrated, she pulled through and left my post. My cover guy, the guy keeping me safe with a big gun, and I watched her drive down the street and pull right into the administrative building with the top brass and huffed into the building as quickly as her soft body would take her. We exchange a look between us with wry smiles, knowing exactly where this is probably going. Later that day, we get a new official base-wide mandate. From here forward, all enlisted will salute vehicle stickers of officers regardless of who's in the vehicle. Roger that. This is where the malicious compliance comes in. It's worth noting that when you salute an officer as enlisted, you do it first, and you hold the salute until you are saluted in return, and they lower theirs. Only then do you lower your salute. It signals that you're saluting them and they're replying. Additionally, when saluting a group of officers, you generally direct your salute and greeting to the highest-ranking individual. Now, as far as I know, this stupid sticker salute order has no accommodation for how a 2004 Toyota Camry fits into the officer's pecking order. Additionally, if the car is unoccupied, it's not like that sticker is removed. After that order came through, we all began saluting stickers. Personally, I'd direct my salute to the sticker. I would also prioritize sticker salutes over officers. Let me tell you, walking through parking lots was a blast as I saluted empty cars on my way to wherever. More and more people saw me doing it, and more people started doing it. Not long after, the order was publicly rescinded, which hilariously had the balancing effect of never rendering a salute to anyone but a clearly known officer, cementing Karen never getting her unearned salutes. Am I the jerk for telling my coworkers that no, not everyone in the office can afford to buy a house? My coworkers are usually pretty good to work with. The average salary for them is around 100K plus. I'm their administrative assistant and I make about 32K. Anyway, some of the things they say are kind of weird. For example, this one woman was shocked that I had never had any of my clothes tailored before. I think they're just really caught up in their own reality, you know? Like, in their world, everyone is beautiful and skinny and rich, with purebred dogs and perfect white teeth. I was helping organize, and someone announced they finally bought their first house. The conversation continued on to them kind of being rude and saying things like, "I don't get why people think no one can afford to buy a house. It's not that hard." And someone else was like, "Yeah, I can't imagine being in my 30s and still renting. I'd feel like such a failure." And they all agreed. I don't usually get upset about the things they're talking about, but I finally had it and was like, "I'm 38 and rent. I don't think I'm a failure." One of them was like, "Oh, well, we weren't talking about you. It's just that all these people always go on and on about how it's impossible to save for a down payment." I was just like, "Yeah, it is pretty hard." It was obvious the whole atmosphere in the room changed, so I was like, "Anyway," and got up and left to the main office to get back to work. Later on, one of the other women in the office came up and was like, "Hey, I'm sorry about earlier. I didn't mean to offend you. It got kind of awkward in there." I said, yeah, it was pretty awkward listening to them talk about how they'd feel like a failure if they were in my shoes. She said that's not what she meant. She actually meant that it felt like I was trying to call attention to the wage gap, like it was their fault, and that if I wanted to better myself, they could help me figure out how to apply to schools and work my way up just like they did. I said a kind of half-hearted, "Thanks." It's been weird in the office since then. I know money is one of those no-no topics, but it's not like it's a secret that I only make what I make. Am I the jerk? Forgot to add, we don't have HR, and this really isn't an HR thing. My girlfriend refuses to get a job and expects me to pay her bills like her parents have always done. My girlfriend, 23 female, and I, 26 female, have been dating for over 2.5 years. We met when we were both in college. I graduated soon after we met, and she dropped out after 1 year of relationship. She worked 4 months in retail and then quit. She now hasn't been doing anything for over 7 months. She looked for jobs for a week and stopped, and now she does Uber whenever she really needs money because her dad didn't send her any. I pay 75% of the rent, and we split 50-50 for the other bills. The only reason I agreed to pay more rent than she does is because she was okay with living in an unsafe part of town for low rent, while I would rather pay a little more and be safe. So I agreed to pay the difference in rent. All the bills are under my name. We agreed that she would use Cash App to send me her part of the bills every month. Her mom used to take care of all of her bills, and she told me herself she didn't trust herself to manage the bills. That's why I took responsibility of all of them. For the past 4 months, I've been asking updates about her job search and stuff, because I'm not interested in being with someone who chooses to be home watching TV all day instead of doing something with themselves. If she had a disability or something else, it would be different, but it's just her parents pay for everything. 2 weeks ago, we received our bills. I text her screenshots of all of them and send requests for each one of them on Cash App. After a few days, she hasn't sent the money yet, so I asked her if she could send it because I need to pay the bills. She apologized and asked if I could give her a week to pay me. I agreed. During the week, she told me she'll have the money Monday, today. Today she told me she was going to go paint. She doesn't get paid for it, it's just a hobby for now. I asked her if she had the bills money. She told me that Uber takes a few days to process the money and will send it to me as soon as she has it. I told her that's exactly why I've been asking her when she would start looking for a job, because I don't want to be in this situation. She then told me that she had cash she could give me for the bill. I got a little frustrated that she had cash that whole time and didn't offer it. I told her I needed the money in my account, not in cash. I asked her if she could just deposit it in her bank and send it to me. She said I could do that myself. I'm very frustrated and just asked her to send me the money online when she has it. If she had been working and lost her job for any reason and couldn't afford the bill because of it, I wouldn't mind covering the bills. But since she makes the decision of not working and not doing anything, I'm not willing to help her financially. Am I the jerk for not helping her financially? Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her girlfriend? Please let us know. You could always, Break up. No way would I stay with Reddit boy over here if he was a deadbeat. It's redder now. Remember they made us change it. Oh yeah, my bad. Am I the jerk for yelling at my mom when she acted like nothing happened after my dad cheated? My parents have a great relationship. Well, that's what I thought before this happened. I'm 14, female, and my parents usually have friends over and always tell me I'm free to have friends over. So it wasn't a surprise when I unlocked the front door and could hear my dad and another woman in the kitchen. Since my dad usually calls my name when he hears me opening the door, I thought he probably didn't think I was home yet. I walked to the kitchen to greet my dad, but then I saw it. He kissed the woman on the cheek, a woman that isn't my mom. Both of them were turned, facing away from the door, so they didn't see me. My dad proceeded to flirt with the woman until I threw my bag on the ground to get their attention. They pulled apart, and Dad called out if that was me. I walked into the kitchen and greeted him and the woman, then I locked myself in my room for the rest of the afternoon. I only came out when my mom came home. I helped my mom put away her things and put her weekly flowers in a vase before turning to her and telling her what I saw. She stayed quiet for a moment, then told me that she'll take care of it and that I shouldn't worry about it anymore. A few days go by and nothing happens. There was no fight, no arguments, no sour faces at each other, no divorce. Nothing that would usually happen to cheaters in movies and stuff. It upset me how my mom would continue to joke with my dad after what he did and still cook for him. Yesterday after dinner, when my dad went to bed, I went to her demanding to know what's wrong with her and how could she go on living a life with dad who cheated. She sighed and told me to drop it, but I didn't. I asked her why she wasn't getting a divorce and why she was putting up with my jerk dad. She glared at me and told me to watch my tone and to not disrespect my dad. Finally, I yelled at her, asking why she was defending him, and she told me that she'd explain everything once I cooled down. I told my brother, who's 17, the whole story so he could know the truth about my dad, but he seemed really irritated. He told me to shut up and not tell anyone else in the family about my dad. He said that if mom said she'd handle it, she would. I told him she didn't and that they were still acting as if nothing had happened. He glared at me and told me to calm down and talk to mom like an adult if I wanted to act like one instead of just yelling at her. He also called me a jerk for escalating the situation and making dinner awkward. I don't think I'm the jerk, but whatever. Am I the jerk? My after-school activities got canceled that day, and I didn't let my parents know beforehand, so they didn't expect me to be home so early. Edit. I asked my dad about it, but he just avoided answering and told me that him and mom would talk to me about it when I cooled down. What do I have to cool down about? I don't know. Edit. Going against what my brother said, I talked to my cousin about it since we're pretty close. She's 16. Basically, she told me two things. 1, stop getting influenced by TikTok and Reddit. And 2, said they're in an open relationship. I asked how she knew for sure, and she told me to give my parents time to explain this and that it took her mom a month before she finally set her and my brother down after they caught her with a family friend. After asking, she told me this happened about 5 years ago. Never thought my aunt was like that. Well, what do you think? Is OP the jerk for yelling at her mom about this or not? Please let us know. I don't think she's a jerk. She's an upset and confused kid. I hope those parents just come clean and tell her the truth about what's going on. You don't want me to interrupt you for any reason? Okay then, if you say so. I worked as a PBX operator. If you're unfamiliar, a PBX operator is responsible for switching calls on local lines within the internal telephone system of a large company or corporation. PBX stands for Private Branch Exchange, and it is a system that enables users to have external telephone lines without having to maintain a separate line for each user. The system that we used was an older one that had a switchboard where you had to pull up a line and plug it into a ringing phone line, flip a switch to answer the call, another to put them on hold, take messages, deliver messages, transferring calls, etc., while at the same time doing the exact same thing with as many as 20 to 30 other calls coming in at the same time on other switchboard lines. Our switchboards held up to around 100 phone lines. I worked side by side with Mary and Jake. We had relief operators that would take over so that we could have a break or eat lunch or dinner. During our 30-minute lunch breaks, weather permitting, we would go outside where there were picnic tables that we could sit at to eat, sleep, or just decompress. Mary liked to sit out at a picnic table alone and read a book during break and didn't want to be interrupted while she was reading for any reason and would scream, kick at, push, or curse whomever had the nerve to do it. One day, Jake and I walked outside, saw her reading, and decided to just grab another table. That's when we saw it. A snake. It was under Mary's table and slithering toward her feet. Jake knew immediately that it was a harmless black king snake. I didn't, but all snakes terrify me. So I tried to get Mary's attention. She told me to shut up. Jake told me to let her find out on her own. Cue malicious compliance in 3, 2, 1. The snake slithered over Mary's sandaled feet. At first, she just moved her foot and kept on reading, but the snake had other plans. It came back again to her feet. Again, Mary moved her feet, but the snake held on, so she looked beneath the table to see what the problem was. She screamed and kicked off the bench so fast that she scraped both of her knees on the underside of the table and the back of one ankle on the bench. When she was about 10 yards away from the picnic table, she started screaming at Jake and me. Mary: "Why didn't you tell me there was a snake under there, you morons?" Me: "I tried." Jake: "You made it clear that you didn't want to be interrupted." Mary: "You could have interrupted me to tell me there was a snake." Me: "I tried. You told me to shut up, remember?" "Well, obviously I didn't mean it." Jake: "How exactly were we supposed to know that?" Mary: "It's a snake." Jake went to Mary's table and retrieved the 3 to 4 foot long king snake and let it wrap around his arm and hand. This caused Mary to back up even further. "Get rid of it." Jake: "Nope. I'm going to let this little guy live right here until you apologize to OP for being so rude to her." Mary doubled down and refused, saying that she had every right to protect her me time and wasn't about to apologize for it. Jake laughed and told her that in that case, he wouldn't interrupt her me time any longer and laid the snake on top of her book that was still on the table. The snake seemed to like the nice warm pages and curled up for a nap in the sun. Mary never did retrieve her book. It sat on the picnic table a little over a week before it disappeared. We figured it was maintenance that took it when they mowed the lawn. Mary also never apologized, but she never went outside for break again either, choosing instead to sit on the floor by the door to read. Am I the jerk for being too heavy a sleeper? It bothers my husband now that we're about to have a baby. So I've always slept like a rock. I'm the oldest of 9 siblings, and my family didn't have a lot of money, and we always were packed into small apartments. I can sleep through anything. Kids screaming or babies crying, fighting, car alarms, sirens, noisy neighbors, anything. Lights don't bother me either. I joined the Navy right out of high school too, and that made me even more ready to catch some solid Z's whenever possible. Made me sleep through jostling and rocking too, since I had to get used to sleeping on rough seas and in tight quarters. My husband is a very light sleeper. We are pregnant now. My husband has been getting frustrated with me for how heavily I sleep. He's worried that when we have our baby, I'll be heavily asleep and he'll have more responsibilities. A few things that worried him were, he had his brother over and they had a small fire in the kitchen when they were cooking. I was taking a nap and the smoke alarm didn't wake me up. Luckily, they put it out quickly, but he was really worried that if I was alone with our baby, I had not noticed the smoke alarm. I suggested we get a louder one or see if we can set up the sort that calls the fire department automatically. Next, I was home alone and went to bed. He lost his keys on a night out with friends and was banging on the door, ringing the bell and calling my phone, the landline phone, etc. I stayed asleep. He went to sleep at his friend's spare room instead. He said that we needed to do something before the baby comes, because if I'm asleep and there's an emergency, I'll be unreachable. I said maybe he should hide some spare keys in the yard to avoid this issue. He felt I was missing the point. Lastly, we were taking a weekend trip to visit his family. We were sleeping in the room next to his sister who has newborn twins. Apparently, when I was asleep, the twins both started crying and it was super loud through the thin walls. I didn't stir at all, and he realized that when we have our baby, I probably won't be woken by crying in the night. I said that maybe we could get a baby monitor and crank the volume up extra high, or he could just give me a shake. He said I was missing the point again. It's a problem that for 8 or more hours a day, I'm totally dead to the world and unreachable, and that I need to fix it before I'm a parent, or else he's going to feel like he can't count on me to be there for our baby or to be responsive in emergency. I said that I was trying to find ways to work around my heavy sleeping, like getting a louder fire alarm or hooking up a baby monitor to some loud speakers to amplify it. He said he can't live in a house where every sound is turned up to 11 and I needed to do something else. I don't know what to do. I don't think I can just start sleeping less well. I've always been a sound sleeper and unbothered by noise and light because I've never had a quiet, dark place to sleep until I was like 25. Am I the jerk for being so heavy a sleeper? My MLM, multi-level marketing, experience. About 3 years ago, I was suffering with depression. At the time, I knew I was pretty low, but in hindsight, I didn't realize just how bad I felt. There were a number of factors, not least being sent to work away from my family, married for 2 months, baby on the way, for a year, and was accommodated in a shipping container. Not a joke, I was living in a shipping container. I was probably not a million miles off doing something dramatic. An MLMer very nearly tipped me over the edge. I get a message on social media, how it all started, from a guy I had worked with about 4 years prior for 2 weeks. We had got on well, and I thought he was a good bloke, but such is the nature of my industry, we both moved on to other things and didn't speak to each other again. This message came when I was at a really low ebb. So when I got the, "Hey, how are you?" I thought I had nothing to lose by answering honestly and telling him that I was pretty low. In retrospect, this MLMer smelt blood like a shark hunting a wounded porpoise. I was working about 4 hours away from where he lived. "Don't go anywhere. I'm coming to pick you up, and we're going out to play some snooker, for a pint, etc." Sure enough, he came and picked me up. We went for a pint, talked a bit, and I felt so much better. I really felt validated and worthwhile, and it made such a difference after about, at this point, 2 months of isolation. About 3 days later, he rang me again, made an arrangement to hang out with some other lads he was mates with. When I got there, I realized that it was an MLM conference, sales pitch, cult recruitment. I have never felt so let down in my life, and that endorphin high I had been riding out of my pit of despair came crushing down around my ears when I realized he didn't give a monkey about me or how I was. All he saw was a loser who was in a vulnerable place that he could exploit. I stood up and walked out within 2 minutes of it starting and realizing what it was. As I was waiting for the bus back to my shipping container, no car, I left that at home for my wife to use, I got a phone call from him telling me to come back and that I was wasting an opportunity and that connecting to millionaires would be my road out of a job and living circumstances which were making me miserable, etc. And all the time I was on the phone to him, I could hear his upline telling him, "Push the lifestyle harder. You have to get him back. You need to make the most of the situation. This guy is the perfect recruit for your downline, etc." Anyway, I have always wanted to share this with someone. Forget MLMers and their morally vacuous approach to mitigating their own losses. And for the record, I am now working near my home, go home to my family every night, and am perfectly happy. Would I be the jerk for suing my boyfriend for not paying my medical bills? I, 21 female, have been with my boyfriend, 24 male, for 4 years. We're both in college and don't have a lot of money altogether because of that. I have more money saved up, but that's only for college, so I don't really even consider that money that I have, if that makes sense. So I am deathly allergic to peanuts, and it has been this way my whole life. I was told even the smallest speck could end me. I have been very careful about this my entire life, and I've only had to use my EpiPen twice. My boyfriend knows this, yet he continues to eat peanut products, but I just make sure not to kiss him when he has had something peanut that day. He washes, etc. Personally, I never liked that he just didn't stop because I feel like he was putting me in danger, but I also couldn't force him to stop either, and it has worked for the past 4 years. What happened? So he came over into my dorm, and we were just hanging out, and he kissed me, and a couple of minutes later, I could feel my throat swelling and my lips getting bigger. I instantly knew that I was having an allergic reaction. I grabbed my EpiPen and shot it into my leg and told my boyfriend to take me to the ER. Even with the EpiPen, I was struggling and was nearly passing out. My boyfriend was really freaking out too. Once I got to the ER, I was taken in, and the last I remember was passing out on the wheelchair in. I woke up and my reaction was down, and I was having the side effects of the adrenaline, but overall okay. I got my phone out, and my phone was blown up with apologies on how he forgot he ate a Reese's cup, and he was so sorry and to please forgive him. Once I finally got home and settled down, my parent picked me up. I told my boyfriend he should be responsible for my medical bill and a new EpiPen, the other one my school has, and he was telling me he has no money and he can't, and that I have more money than him, etc. I was pretty peeved off at him because he just nearly ended me, and now he won't even take responsibility for my medical bills? Well, word got out to his family, and I received rude texts from his mom saying it's my allergy, so I should have to pay the medical bill, and I was the one irresponsible. I got mad and texted my boyfriend saying it was dumb to bring his mom into this, then proceeded to say if he doesn't, I'm going to take him to small claims court because I don't have an extra $5,000 to spare for a medical bill. He got very upset, and I'm pretty sure our relationship is over now. I've gotten a lot more texts from his mom now and from his sisters, and I'm choosing to ignore them. My parents agree with me that I should go and do that, but I'm just not sure. So, would I be the jerk? Edit. I would also like to say in the past, and I have on texts, we've agreed if he had any peanuts, he needs to tell me, which he did not this time. Am I the jerk for making my daughter eat salad while my son gets chicken nuggets? I have 2 kids, a 7-year-old son and a 9-year-old daughter. Every other week, I take them to activities in a certain mall, and in between, we go to a local fast food chain. Now, I do usually have my kids have a healthy diet, but for those rather rare occasions, I let them choose whatever they want. I don't believe going to a fast food place, but then restricting their order so they won't enjoy rather unhealthy food makes sense. So the kids' menu comes with many different options, and the menu even has pictures of all the food. They go every week, so they know. My son chose chicken nuggets and fries as the main, a drink and a cookie for dessert. Just what I would have expected. My daughter picked the chicken Caesar salad. I did not expect that. Asked her if she was sure, explained it did not come with fries. She loves fries. She insisted. Last time I had the salad and she tried one of my croutons and a piece of chicken and loved them. I did not care too much, and a Caesar salad is great. It's not like just snacking a few salad leaves like a rabbit. There's sauce, cheese, chicken, fried chicken, and croutons as extras. Plus, she had the ice cream for dessert. Well, the food came, we sat down, and after taking a few bites, she started complaining about the food. She saw my son eating his chicken nuggets and dipped the fries in the sauce. She asked him for one. He let her try one of the fries and gave her a nugget, as he usually can't finish it all anyways. Then she decided that instead of the salad, she wanted fries now. I said no, she has to eat the salad. Or well, I would not make her eat it, but I won't buy her fries instead. My argument is that she chooses it. She's old enough to know that choice, and there's nothing wrong with the salad. It looks delicious. I even offered to give her some of my meal, a baguette sandwich, but she wants nuggets and fries now. She started throwing a fit. I ignored it. Told her to sit and eat, or at least stop screaming now, or there would be consequences. Some old lady heard her, and I guess she picked up the, it's not fair that he gets nuggies and fries and she has to eat that stupid salad. Well, the lady went off on me. How I'm treating my kids unfairly. I told her to get out of my business and shut up. She does not know what she's talking about. Am I the jerk for making my daughter eat the salad she chose instead of buying her nuggies and fries like her brother? You want me to ask every customer if they're a member and sign up those who aren't? No worries. I work in a relatively large bottle shop, liquor store for those in the US, and we have the worst and most pedantic middle management I've ever worked for. They sent an email to all stores in the state demanding to know why customers weren't being signed up to our loyalty program. You could tell these middle managers had never actually worked in a store, as they expected us to ask every single customer if they were a member, and if they weren't a member, to sign them up to the loyalty program. Also, if a member doesn't have their card, we were expected to look them up manually. This can take a long time, as sometimes customers give you an old address and the system only allows you to look up customers with a current surname and postcode. I ignored the email and continued to serve people as normal. I would always remind our regulars to get out their card so they wouldn't miss out of getting their loyalty points, and would occasionally sign up people when the shop was quiet. Cue follow-up emails and a talking to from the store manager. You have to sign up at least 5 people a day. Fast forward to Christmas Eve. Our store is understaffed, and the area manager is coming around to each store in the area for an hour or so, just to see how the stores were doing on such a busy night. I decided now was the perfect time to ask each and every customer, "Are you a member of our loyalty program?" If yes, but they don't have a card, no worries, just let me look you up. It won't take a second. If they weren't a member, would you like me to sign you up for the program? For context, signing people up manually takes about 3 to 5 minutes. It will take them the same time to sign up themselves on the App Store at home, but I would never tell them this. So we have a queue which is snaking through the length of the store. People are getting impatient, but because they think I'm just being helpful, no one gets mad with me. The area manager, who's been doing next to nothing, just walking around checking we have the correct tickets up, suddenly comes up to me. He's super flustered and says, "Why are the transactions taking so long? This line is getting ridiculous." I tell him calmly, while slightly playing dumb, that I'm just following management's directive to make sure we're asking every customer for their loyalty card and signing up those who are not members. He tells me that, "There's no time for that, just serve them quickly." So I said, "But we've been told to sign up 5 people a day by you." At this point, he's red in the face and just blurts out, "Just serve and forget about the loyalty program." So I don't ask a single customer for their card or sign up any new members on that shift, and I haven't since. Plus, management has never mentioned it again. Am I the jerk for not locking my dogs outside? We have 2 dogs, both small and no higher than your knees. We love Christmas in my family. I prefer Halloween myself, but still love Christmas, and I got them both Christmas jumpers. We always get them a little bag of treats and toys too. I only mention this to show how loved they are. My nephew is nearly 9 and afraid of dogs. We don't know why, but he's absolutely petrified of them, despite being fine with our late dog, a Cavalier. He has even run into the middle of the road on a few occasions to get away from dogs in the street. My sister, his mother, always coddles him and expects us to lock our dogs outside whenever he visits, which is all the time, for hours at a time. It wasn't an issue until now because of the spring and summer months, and they really love being out in the sun. They like playing out there in the garden with the cats. It is, however, an issue now. Where I live, our autumn and winter months are very cold. I don't want to lock them out in that kind of weather. I've offered to pay for therapy to help him get over the fear and anxiety, but she says it's just the way he is and we should accommodate that. Then the real problem crept up. She wants to come have Christmas with us. That would mean locking our dogs outside in the freezing, potentially snowing weather all day. I refused. I told her it was never going to happen, even though I love my nephew. This is my dog's home. She said that they can go in the shed with their jumpers on, with their gifts, and that they would be fine, and that my nephew deserves to enjoy his Christmas without the dogs. I said he can, just not here. My mother isn't getting involved. My other sister agrees with me, and my brother disagrees. I do understand that my nephew is scared of dogs, and that isn't his fault, but my dogs aren't at fault either. Am I the jerk? Edit. A lot of people are suggesting I put them in a room upstairs, but they like to burrow and hide under things, so often got locked in rooms by accident. Because of that, I made it so my doors don't latch now. Edit. Loads of people are saying that I want them here for Christmas. I did not invite them. There's no party I'm hosting, nothing. My sister invited herself because I'll be alone, knowing full well I like it that way. Customer hits on me, manager called the cops and kicked him out. For a background, I, 28 female, have a customer, 50 male, that I have served a couple of times before. He asked me out sometime in early 2020 and I told him no. The day after Christmas, this man came in alone and sat in my section. I was hoping that he wouldn't recognize me this time because I was wearing a mask and I had changed my hair. Unfortunately, he did remember me, but his meal was fairly uneventful. The issue started when I dropped off his check. As I reached to pick up his payment, he grabbed my hand during lockdown and said, "I love you." I was very caught off guard, so I just gave an awkward laugh and walked away to swipe his card and get him out of there. When I walked back with his receipt and card, he asked what I was doing for New Year's Eve and if I would like to go out with him. I replied no, and that I would be home with my husband. He said, "Oh, I didn't realize you were married," while looking at my wedding ring. He then added, "Well, he's a lucky man," with a wink. Gross. I told him to have a good night and walked away, deciding I was not going to go back to my section until he got up because he was creeping me out. I figured that would be the end of it and I could go on with my night. No such luck. He sat at the table for another 15 minutes waiting for me to return. I refused to go over there, so I asked other servers to run my food, and I helped run their food to other parts of the restaurant. He finally got up, but then he went and stood by the host stand for another 20 minutes watching me. At this point, I was feeling super uncomfortable and getting very anxious about him still being there. I finally told my boss what was going on and that I was uncomfortable, so he kept his eye on the customer for me. When he finally left the building, my boss came to tell me that he watched him get in his car and I could relax. About 30 minutes later, my boss started hovering around my section and told me I didn't do anything wrong, but he was going to be spending some time in my section. He did this twice, and over an hour after the customer had left, he pulled me to the side to talk to me. Turns out, the guy never left, and he was still sitting in his car. He had walked into the restaurant twice, looking and wandering around, and went to the bathroom. My manager was worried about me and called the cops on the guy. The cops came in to ask me what happened and asked if we, my manager and I, would like to have him trespassed. My manager told me it was my choice, and I said yes, because after this, I couldn't imagine having to see him again. The cops pulled him out of his car and told him he would be arrested if he ever came back to our restaurant. This incident gave me pretty bad anxiety for a week or two after it happened. Why was he sitting in his car for so long? By the time the cops got to him, he had been at our restaurant for over 2 hours after he finished eating and paid for his meal. What would have happened if my manager wasn't watching him? I wouldn't have known that he didn't leave. Was he waiting for me to get off so he could follow me? Several weeks later, a manager is still walking me to my car every night that I leave. I'm grateful my manager had my back and took my concerns seriously, but I hate that it went so far. I wish I could be more verbal and stand up for myself sooner, instead of having a freeze and appease reaction. But I do feel like I learned from the situation, and hopefully if there is ever another time I'm in a similar situation, I will be stronger. Karen was rude to the owner, so I fired her. I'm a manager at a small business. It's just me, the owner, and another person who is my employee. The owner usually handles the checks on a certain day. We still haven't set up direct deposit yet because they have limits with their banks. The day the checks were supposed to go out, the owner's father had to be rushed to the hospital, and it was so bad that we didn't think he was going to make it. This resulted in our checks being 2 days late. I understand that it was inexcusable and unprofessional. However, it was something out of the owner's hands. The employee, however, she was up in arms, angry, and calling the owner multiple times about her check while his father is almost gone. He answered her the first time, and then he told me to handle it, and I explained everything to her. However, she still kept calling the owner. I get that we all need money, but in my opinion, it's just tasteless to demand a man leave his dying father's side just so you can get your check on time. She was our opener on Monday, and she was late and not even in uniform. I told her that being late, especially when the store opens at 7 a.m. and she's the opener, is inexcusable, and she went on a very long and drawn-out rant about her check. I informed her that I don't have her check, and she will get it once the owner comes later that day, and my job is to ensure that she's doing her job, and coming late and not in our standard uniform is not our image. And she kept deflecting and demanding to speak to the owner, whose father is in his deathbed. I fired her for a few reasons, but the last nail in the coffin was her blatant disrespect for the owner and myself. I did not come to argue with her. However, she was ready to battle. I still feel guilty about it, but I honestly don't know what else I could have done. We did get her check as soon as the owner got there, but I didn't think she was a good fit for a few reasons and let her know that we won't be needing her anymore. So Reddit, did I do something wrong? Edit, I know that we have a very wonky payroll system and we're working on getting that fixed. It wasn't our intention to withhold her pay. We don't regret firing her because even before this incident, she was already on thin ice due to her tardiness, among other things. We are a small business and we try to do the best we can for each other and our employees. However, she has made demands and taken advantage of our willingness to be adaptable. I understand that a lot of you question why I didn't just pay her from the till. We are a cashless business, so we don't have money. Second question, why didn't I just pay her myself and wait for the company to reimburse me? I admit that thought crossed my mind, but I didn't know if it was possible to do that from a legal standpoint, or if I would be overstepping. Lastly, the most asked question is, how am I still defending the owner and myself? The answer is that I'm not. I know we should have paid her on time, and she has a right to be angry. But you can be angry and polite and professional at the same time. And the way she handled the situation, I just didn't think this was someone I would want to work with. It just wouldn't fit the environment we try to bring into the team. You're the jerk. An employer has an obligation, legal and moral, to pay their employees on time. Do you think her landlord cares why her rent is late? If the car loan people care why her payment is late? No. Her saying her boss's father is ill will carry zero weight when it comes to her financial obligations. You say the final nail was her blatant disrespect? You try to say not a good fit, but we both know that's just trying to make it seem more reasonable, don't we? How about your total disrespect of the employment contract? She works, you pay her. Why should she turn up on time, etc., if you aren't even paying her? You don't know what else you could have done? You could have just paid her on time as you were obliged to do. If the owner isn't able to make the checks, then you need a backup method. Pay her in cash or the like. His failure to properly set up his accounting systems doesn't absolve him of his legal obligations. You're the jerk because you have to pay your employees on time. The owner doesn't get a pass because his dad was passing, and you don't get to fire someone who insisted you not break the law by not paying her on time. You should have found a way to pay her, even if it meant paying her in cash or taking the checks to the owner to sign in the hospital lobby. Her being late and not in uniform aren't okay, and you could have noted that and fired her for the next thing. But now she might have a case against you. It sure sounds like you fired her as retaliation for demanding she be paid at the agreed upon or legally required time. You shouldn't be a boss until you have a handle on this kind of thing. In part because it sounds like one small lawsuit or fine from the labor board would put this company out of business. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his employee? Please let us know. I'd be upset if I wasn't paid on time, but if the hospital situation was that serious, I wouldn't act like she did. Then again, I'm not dependent on my check for survival. That's what I have you for, Reddit boy. Redder. Remember they made us change it. I know, but I'm still gonna call you Reddit boy. Deal with it. Am I the jerk for making my friend's boyfriend cry after he insulted my career? First things first, I, 25 female, am a doctor, right now doing my residency in pediatrics. This is not the USA, English is not my first language, and I'm using a TA for privacy reasons. One of my best friends, almost a brother, Kevin, who's 26, started dating Olaf, who's 28, 3 years ago. In general, Olaf is a good guy, or at least that's what I have been told, because he has a peculiar character trait. He hates doctors with all of his soul. Kevin told me this hate started more or less than 9 years ago when Olaf lost his mother in a simple surgery due to a medical error. I honestly don't know more details, but since then, Olaf hates hospitals, doctors, etc. Luckily, he is healthy and hasn't needed any medical attention in recent years. The small health problems he has, he solves with homeopathic medicine and traditional cures. Because of this, Olaf is pretty cold towards me, and while I avoid talking about medical topics around him, if they come out, it always ends in him making mean comments. One of the most common being, "Western doctors are just licensed criminals." I want to believe I'm a very patient person, but yeah, imagine how fun this lockdown was with him around. And now to the event in question. On Sunday, my friend group, including Olaf, was hanging in a cafe talking about life when one of the girls, Sheila, got a text message. The next conversation ensued, more or less. Sheila: "Bad doctress, my aunt is a little confused with her formula. Here, can you tell me what these pills are?" Me: "Sure, this is for Olaf."
Puff, are you really asking her?
Sheila: Yeah, she is a doctor." Olaf:
You say that like it's something good.
Me: "Sorry?" Kevin: "Babe, you should not." Olaf:
Why not? They are useless. People will be healthier without them and their poisons. Look at me. I'm perfectly fine and haven't seen one in a decade. It's not my fault she chose to waste her life by becoming a doctor.
I blew up. I will not even try to transcript all the things I said because most were insults, but I do remember the last part, which was, word by word, "I'm sorry your mom passed, but that's not my fault, nor the fault of all the doctors in the world. And I am sure that if she had been in the care of the same type of imbecile that you are, she would not be more alive today." I was red, angry, and it was obvious most of the patrons at the place heard me. Olaf was dumbfounded, tears in his eyes. He suddenly got up and ran away, Kevin following behind. A waiter kindly asked the rest of us to pay and leave. I haven't heard from Kevin since. He's leaving all my messages on scene. My friends say they understand that I was mad, but I know his reason and that I went too far by striking that chord. Honestly, I don't feel remorseful, but there is still anger in me, so not the most impartial judge. What do you guys think? Not the jerk. Olaf has formed an opinion that all doctors are licensed criminals because of an unfortunate and fatal mistake that was made. He instigates arguments because you're a doctor, and he's extremely disrespectful. People have a limit, he keeps testing yours. You're human, and you finally snapped back. If he doesn't like it, too bad. Not the jerk. There's not liking doctors and simply stating that and letting it go. Then there's just being a flat-out jerk, which Olaf is being. There's also absolutely no excuse for being like that, for treating someone that way. People can have a difference of opinion and be respectful. He's not doing that. If Kevin in this situation is okay with how Olaf is treating you and is in the end mad at what you said to him, he isn't your true friend. Find new friends who actually respect you and your career. I'd say not the jerk. I agree that his mother's passing was unfortunate, but he can't continue insulting you on a regular basis. It might sound insensitive, but if his mother had passed in an accident, would he be blaming every person on the road every day? I understand where he's coming from, but personally attacking every doctor this way is too much. He can hate them and not visit any doctor, but not attack and insult this way. And you're not a saint. You have feelings too, and there will come a breaking point where you snap. And thank you, OP, for all the work you've been doing during lockdown. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or Olaf? Please let us know. Don't dish it out if you can't take it back. And was anyone else picturing the snowman from Frozen this whole time? Sovereign citizen gets kicked out. This happened this afternoon. I was down in the basement office and the hostess comes in. Tells me there's a man upstairs who won't wear a mask, mandated in our state in restaurants, and refuses to leave. He demands to speak with the manager. No problem. I've only done this 894 times at this point. Up the stairs I go. He's smugly leaning on the host stand. Me. Sir, you have to wear a mask to be in here. Him.
No, I don't.
Me. Yes, you do. Please put one on or exit the building. Him.
I know my rights.
Me. Then you should know we are currently under a mandate in this state, and we're not going to serve you without one. Him.
You can't force me.
Me. I'm not trying to force you. I'm simply telling you our options. Mask or leave. Him.
I am a sovereign citizen, and I don't abide by any laws or mandates set by any government. You hold no authority over me or my person. You are required to serve me as I am.
Me in my brain. Oh, for goodness sake. Me, out loud. I am also a sovereign citizen, and you are currently in a sovereign restaurant. You are on sovereign ground and are subject to my requirements. I require that you leave immediately. He's speechless. Me. Please exit the building. You are trespassing on sovereign territory. Him.
Well, there's a lot of other restaurants in this town.
Me. Plenty of options. Him.
I guess I'll just spend my money somewhere else.
Me. Great. We agree. Him storming out.
This is discrimination. You'll hear from my lawyer.
Me calling after him. As a sovereign citizen like yourself, I neither recognize nor am under the authority of any court of law. Him.
Buzz off.
I'm surprised he didn't film the whole thing and camp out till the police came. What is wrong with people? Catch a sovereign boot in your backside. Entitled mom calls the police on my dog. I have several rescued Dobermans, but the two needed for this story are Queen, who was severely mistreated and is now aggressive and super anxious, and Duke, my service dog for PTSD and a variety of other mental problems. Please keep your comments on how to handle my dogs to yourself. This is not the time nor the place to tell me. So, because Queen is so aggressive, whenever she goes outside, she has to wear a muzzle and is leashed to me just to make sure she doesn't bolt, to monitor her mental state, and to give lots of love and treats when she focuses on me and not people walking past my house. Helping her has honestly helped me a lot, and Duke is also fairly protective of us both, in a service dog way. He does body blocking, where he puts himself between us and whatever is making us upset, relevant to the story. Because of this, we do get stares and whispers sometimes, but most people in my neighborhood know about Queen now. Except Entitled Mom and Nice Kid. Nice Kid is walking home from school and reaches his hand through the chain link fence holes to pet some of my other dogs. Because he is trespassing, Queen automatically gets aggressive and tries to lunge. Thankfully, she's a smaller Doberman, and I'm able to stop her and just quickly wave before bringing her inside. I come back outside and say hi, sorry about her, she was just scared. Nice Kid nods and asked about why she was scared, so I explained that her old owners were really mean and scary. I said it's like when you watch a scary movie and are scared even after the movie ends. She's just trying to calm down, but it's taking her a while. I grab one of my dogs who is good with kids and bring him out to be pet by Nice Kid, and we talk for a bit on how to properly approach dogs and to not stick our hands through other people's fences. He leaves, and I think we're done. Bring my dogs inside, give Queen her anti-anxiety medication before one more potty break before bed. While I'm outside, Nice Kid is standing a bit away, while a woman, entitled Mom, is leaning against my fence and calling out, "Hey, hey, you!" Because Queen was doing pretty good and seemed fairly unbothered. I walked closer, but left several feet between the fence before giving a treat to Queen and asking what she needed. Conversation is paraphrased since it happened a while ago. Entitled Mom, "My son says you're mistreating this dog." She points to Queen. Nice Kid, "I said someone else mistreated her and she's still scared." Entitled Mom just waved her hand at him and continued, "You need to give her to me and the rest of your dogs before I call the police on you for animal mistreatment." Me, "I'm sorry, but I'm not giving you my dogs. You can call the police, but these are my dogs. I honestly had thought she was bluffing." Entitled Mom started screaming, which is a big trigger for both me and Queen. "Hand them over." Queen doesn't lunge, since nobody had come onto her territory yet, but she did start to press against my leg and was shaking so hard I could see it. This is what she does before a breakdown, as I call them, where she basically goes blind and will attack anyone, including me and my other dogs. She hadn't had one in over a year though, so I didn't take much notice. Thankfully, Duke did. Entitled Mom kept screaming while Duke body blocked us both and was trying to lean against Queen for some pressure therapy and keeping his eyes on Entitled Mom. He was trained to do this so I could feel safe enough to take my eyes off of other people, but it can be unnerving. I understand that. Entitled Mom apparently thought this was an attack stance. Duke is my biggest boy, and if you don't know what an attack stance truly is, it can sometimes look like a dog is just standing tall and is ready to attack. And whipped out her phone and called 911, saying something along the lines of an aggressive dog was attacking her and her son. I sent my dogs, who actually listen, inside while I stayed put, too afraid that Entitled Mom would climb my fence, but put some distance between me and the fence and brought Queen with me. She was still heavily shaking, and when I crouched down and tried to pet her to calm her down, she snapped at me. I stumbled back, landed on my butt, and Queen had her hackles raised, looking blankly ahead. I tried to talk to her calmly and softly, but Entitled Mom is still screaming, now about how I am being attacked and to hurry. The rest was a mess. The police arrived, and I basically had to cover Queen while she struggled and smashed her muzzle into me, trying to bite me to make sure they wouldn't do anything, while I also cried, which freaked Duke out as he ran around us in circles, trying to figure out what to do. Eventually, the police told me to bring my dogs inside and to come out and talk. Duke refused to leave my side, so I put his harness on and brought his papers for proof just in case. I bring them everywhere, to be honest, and we both went outside. I was able to produce Queen's papers and even called my vet for proof that she is a scared dog, not an aggressive dog, and my vet even explained some of her treatment plan to them all. By the end of it, myself, Queen, and I'm pretty sure Duke as well, not to mention my other dogs, we're all so emotionally drained, we just went to bed, and I called in late to work for the next day. Several of my neighbors have told me they gave their own statements to the police about my dogs and Queen, and thankfully we have a few security cameras that can sort of view my yard, and the police have since dropped the case. I saw a Nice Kid today, which is why I thought of this story. He slid a note under my fence that said sorry with a few drawings of my dogs and me. It was very cute and sweet. I hope he is okay though. He looked really scared when I more or less flung myself over Queen while she had a breakdown. Just open up another register. So I work in a smallish sized store. On a typical day, we only have 2 employees, usually management and a cashier, working at any given time. This means one employee is on the register while the other walks the sales floor and stocks. On a normal day, this is more than enough, but occasionally we get a rush of people in the store and we open a second register. if the second employee isn't in the middle of helping a customer on the floor, but they always jump onto a register as soon as they are available. Now, our customers are usually understanding and patient when these rushes happen. However, in the last week, I had 2 separate occasions where full-grown adults threw the biggest fits because there wasn't a second register currently available. The first one happened during our shift change. These are the worst since things are chaotic already. To make things worse, it was the end of a new employee's first shift. I had just clocked out and was gathering my things, double-checking the schedule for my next shift and who I would be working with. The manager that just came in 20 minutes prior switched the other 2 employees out. During this time, there was only 1 person in line and maybe 5 groups of people in the store total, so it was the ideal time to switch them. She took the new person to the office to count their till and help them with clocking out. While I was heading out, the phone went off. The on-duty manager was still busy, so I went ahead and answered it. It happened to have been another store asking questions, so I decided to sit down and answer a few of them before I left. During this time, about 2 minutes, out on the floor, everyone in the store decided they were going to leave. I finished talking to the other store and walked out. Instantly, I was approached by a man asking about what sounded like, "I looking for a job." This isn't uncommon, and so I pointed to the poster next to the register that gives the website to apply and explained we were looking for new employees. And then the conversation went like this. Man, "Yo, I only got a couple things. You mind opening up another line?" Me, "Sorry, but I actually am off the clock and leaving. However, they are almost done in the office and will be able to open up in a minute." Man, "Why can't you just open up the second line?" Me, "I don't have a draw. I'm off the clock." Man, "Why isn't there another dang checker?" Me, "Sorry, they're in the middle of a shift change and having some technical issues." New person was indeed having a hard time figuring things out. They're almost done and will be out in a minute. Man, "If you weren't in that darn office yapping your mouths off, y'all would be done. This is horrible customer service." This really ticked me off because the yapping he was hearing was me talking to another store about work-related questions and the manager guiding the new girl through the end of the shift process. By no means were we yapping. And then, as to make me even more irritated, some middle-aged teen, really hard to tell, girl jumped in. "Why do you have a shift change in the middle of the day anyways? It would be smart if you don't change shifts." I was done. Me, "I don't make the schedule, I just follow it. Someone will be out in a minute. You can either wait here at this closed register or you can wait in line. Sorry, but I'm off the clock." I walked into the office to let them know the tension on the floor and walked back out. The man must have also walked out because he left his small handful of stuff on the counter. Funny thing is, the woman that was originally behind him in line was up at the open register checking out. If he would have waited 3 minutes, he could have left with what he wanted. I'll share the second one on another post someday during the week, since this one got to be too long. For all of you working retail this holiday season, hang in there. ID everyone at the door and every bag? You got it. Working in security at a casino is probably one of the best places to work at. There's not only free drinks, but there's cheap food, music, and girls that are down to hang out, free or not. However, it does come with its quirks that are unique to a casino/hotel combo. Back in 2020, we had to conduct temperature checks and hand out free masks, as well as maintain social distancing and keep a limit of guests in the venue. 2,000 guests Monday through Thursday and 3,500 guests Friday through Sunday. This also allowed for us to stop the line if things go wrong. During briefing, pre-shift on a Friday, I worked swing shift at the time. A joke was thrown my way from the director on IDing guests as they came through. If you can solo the garage side entrance for 4 hours starting at 7 p.m. all the way to the end of shift and ID everyone that needs to be checked, you'll see where this goes in a minute. And check bags that come through, I will add a bonus to your check. I said, deal. So 7 p.m. comes by. I show up to a count of 1,500 people in the venue and 4 temperature lines, with guests starting to come in masse. This thread is about malicious compliance. I stopped every single guest for their ID, checked every single bag, and slowed the door down. I was just starting work again after getting out of the Marines 2 months prior. I used a pronounced voice in a firm and professional manner and directed a slow flow of guests into the casino. At the end of the 4 hours, I had checked 460 bags, 1,724 IDs, and confiscated 46 fake IDs, 93 torchlighters, 58 bottles of wine, 9 packs of beer, and over 35 pounds of meds. My director came to personally check up on me and nearly lost it when he realized I took him seriously. "What the heck is wrong with you?" he asked. I restated his question to him. "You know I was kidding, right? Holy..." I laughed and walked off post as the night and shift had concluded. The bonus? $0. My job? Still a crap-paying gig. Do I want to do it again? If asked, I will comply maliciously. Am I the jerk for not giving up my seat on the bus? So I, 26 female, got on the bus after an 8-hour day at work. Now I get on at very first stop on the bus route and get off at the very last stop. The whole journey takes about 2 hours. When I got on the bus, it was quite busy on the bottom deck, with only one double seat left available. Usually I would go upstairs when it's this busy, but this time I had about 4 to 5 slightly heavy bags with me and didn't feel safe trying to get up the stairs with them, especially since I'm 18 weeks pregnant. So I sat on the seat downstairs. The bus emptied fairly quickly after a few stops and filled up again about halfway through the journey. This is where the problem started. An older lady with a stick got on the bus and, well, she asked me to move. She wasn't even polite when she asked, and honestly, I thought she meant move over so she could sit next to me. Then I moved my bags and started to scoot over, when she said, No, I meant, can you find another seat? This seat is reserved for disabled people. You are clearly not disabled. There are plenty of seats upstairs." These seats were not priority seats for disabled people. The ones in front of me were, which had an empty seat. But these ones were not, so I replied, "Sorry, I really don't feel safe going up the stairs with all these bags. I don't mind you sitting next to me though. We both have our masks on." "I don't want to sit next to anybody. I don't feel safe. So move your lazy behind and give the seat to someone who needs it." I hate confrontation, and I absolutely can't stand people who use their pregnancy as an excuse, which means I hate what I said next. "Lady, I'm pregnant. I'm not going up those stairs with these bags and risking a fall. If you really want a seat to yourself, ask someone else to move." Before any more could be said, a man across from me said to the lady, "Here, love, have my seat." He got up, let her sit down, and went upstairs, but not before giving me a dirty look. The lady spent the next 10 to 15 minutes talking with the other oldies on the bus about how the kids these days have no respect for their elders or people with disabilities, or how they would have never spoken to someone like that in their day. This happened a couple of days ago, while my boyfriend and my dad said I was in the right, but I can't help but feel like I acted like an entitled brat. Not the jerk. You should have pointed out where the disabled seats were. Also, forget the older people who think their age entitles them to respect. They're usually the ones lacking manners. Edited to add. I'd like to point out I did not say forget all of the older people. I'm just sick of the ones who think their age is an excuse to be rude. It's the same as the ones who say, "It's just the way I've always been," or "That's how my generation is." Also, I'm sick of the ones who think being older entitles them to respect, but they refuse to give respect to younger people just because they're young. Newsflash, just because someone is young doesn't mean they don't have health issues or they don't have struggles, etc. Last but not least, for the ones going on about lockdown, not wanting to sit next to someone, elderly being at risk, pregnant women are at risk too. P.S. To those who messaged me about the horrible things that will happen to me when I'm elderly, I don't treat younger generations like crap, and I also don't expect special treatment just because I survived Y2K, 2012, 2020, so on and so forth. So I'm not worried. Not the jerk. 1. Not all disabilities are visible. The comment about you clearly not being disabled was ignorant at best. And even if you were disabled and in the designated seats, you would not have owed her an explanation. 2. You are pregnant and you told her this. End of story. Random stranger lady doesn't need to know more. 3. There was at least one open seat nearby and you pointed it out. That she didn't want the open seat does not make it your problem. Older lady sounds entitled and argumentative and likely accustomed to getting her way. Good for you for not giving in. Boss agrees with secretary that I'm not the office manager, so I stop managing the office. When I was doing my articles at a small law firm, internship to be admitted as an attorney, I was the go-to person for everything at the office, setting up computers, buying stationery, paying bills, going to court, seeing clients, etc. After being admitted as an attorney, I continued doing all this because the secretary only did about 20% of what a secretary would usually do and refused to do anything else. My boss does some shady business, doesn't pay taxes, etc., so he couldn't just fire her for fear of her ratting him out. He also never disciplined her. We are not in the US. Since we worked from my boss's mother's house, the secretary also spent about 50% of her day just chatting to his mother, and they became fast friends. Guess who was always the evil one that everyone ganged up on? Yours truly. I was made out to be incompetent at my job, and I used to cry a lot and almost became an alcoholic from work stress. One day, the secretary got really upset with me after I asked her to buy stationery since we didn't have enough staples, and after a heated argument, told me that I'm not the office manager and should stop lording it about as if I was. Bear in mind, I was her senior, both as an attorney and a number of years worked at the firm. My boss did nothing and rather got upset with me, and so did his mother. I decided then and there, I am done doing both secretary work and my attorney work because I was working roughly 50 to 60 hours per week, standard is 40, trying to get everything done without receiving overpay. The unemployment rate in my country is around 30%, and in the legal field, supply of lawyers exceeds demand. She knew this, and my boss knew this, but no one cared, and I was basically working myself into an early grave. Cue malicious compliance. If everyone agrees that I am not the office manager, then I will stop managing the flow of the office and only do my attorney work. I stopped paying the bills, buying the stationery, reminding my boss of important meetings, etc. Within 2 weeks, the electricity was cut off for 10 days because it wasn't paid, and my boss's elderly mother and the rest of his family had no electricity. We could also not work for those 10 days. Once the electricity went on, the phone lines were cut because of non-payment. We could again not work. The post piled up. There was no stationery. We couldn't do service of court documents because our service providers cut us off. It went on for weeks. I simply worked around the issues and sorted my life out. One example, when the Wi-Fi was off, I used my cell phone to hotspot my laptop without telling anyone. In the end, my boss and his mother begged me to do what I used to, but I refused. Since I was focusing more on my actual work, my fees increased and my pay increased as well. Shortly thereafter, I moved away from that office to our secondary office and worked alongside lovely colleagues who all did what they got paid to do. I've been at this new office, same firm, just a different location, for the last 2 years. Support our channel by joining as a member today, and we'll give you a shout out in our next video. Or come watch this video next. You won't believe what Karen does in that one.